welcome back, y'all, to another night of LPL presented by LPL English, the unofficial English co-stream of the LPL. My name is Rafa. I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Gavin Quackington III, aka Quacks. This guy is always coming in super styled up. I feel a little underdressed, but I just don't got the same type of just flair that you do, my guy. But tonight is an appropriate series for this kind of flair. Tell him why, Quacks.
I mean, first of all, for you, like, I need to overdress to compensate for these looks. Like, you, my friend, you've got that aura, so you've got it covered with the outfit. But, I mean, this is a series that I think a lot of people, for the two teams that are facing off against one another, is a bit unexpected. And the big story is Team WE, the upset of probably the entire year, Mark. And it's going to be difficult to surpass that bar. 3-1 over BLG, and now looking to prove that they are more than one-hit wonders and they can hit that high consistently against AL.
And if for some reason this is your first time tuning in to the LPL and just trying to catch up and going, well, why does that matter? Why is the WE upset so significant? Well, let's take a look at the bracket, and we'll show you how we got here in the first place. WE, one of our teams that is playing tonight against anyone's legend in our other upper bracket semifinal, came from 1-13 series score in the regular season. Our last seed from Group Ascend had to fight tooth and nail against the top seed from Group Nirvana in LNG, scrape on by. BLG look at that and say, yeah, this team is a known quantity. We want to challenge them. We want to take what they supposedly thought was going to be a free win, and they end up getting clapped. WE takes the win 3-1 over BLG, and these guys are now in the lower bracket. But Gavin, we know that watching WE, when it comes to a parallel of last year's playoffs, this is not the first time that WE has upset the defending LPL champion.
No, certainly not. And their matchup against AL, this is not the first time they've matched against AL in recent playoffs. You look at split number 1, and they fell down to AL in the lower bracket. So this is kind of a rematch for them to right that wrong. And then if you want to look even further back to 2025, we also had a series against these two in a best of 5 with the playoffs, and AL won that one as well. They are combined 9-1 against one another. WE have only taken one game off of AL when it comes to BO5s in the playoffs. So this is a series where I think I'm really looking at them to, again, hit that consistency. And for players that I think really stepped up against BLG and we're looking at them to hit those highs again, you should look no further than the top side. Cube and Monkey with generational performances in that series against BLG.
For sure. But before we get into the WE story, we got to make sure that we are giving our due credit over to their opponents. And anyone's legend, their starting 5 for tonight's matchup is going to be Flandra, Tarzan, Shanks, Hope, and Kyle. And a big thing to note is that there's been a lot of roster changes already from Split 1 to Split 2, and there's plenty of roster changes that happened during the offseason from the 2025 season to 2026. Anyone's legend has remained true to this 5-man core ever since it first formed for the beginning of 2025, and they have stuck to it ever since then. And one of the players that was really key in their win over EDG was the fact that Flandra was showing so much flexibility in their draft phase and was able to kind of blindside EDG multiple times in the champions that he was picking for their composition.
It's really cool to see Flandra, who I think has had some fun, unorthodox picks in the past, really break out some of the crazy dark technology when it matters. We had the Shen, we had the Twisted Fate, you know, double global ultimates, I think, not only allowed him to have that edge in the draft, Mark, but also just the global pressure he was able to exert with those 2 picks, I think really made it difficult for EDG to find these angles to surprise AL in the team fights. So his involvement, even just out of the laning phase, was something that I really felt like was key. Him syncing up with Tarzan, as well as we can see in these clips, the Nocturne Shen combination, allowing for that safety of the paranoia to go into maybe more members than a lone Nocturne would be comfortable with, and just the amount of flexibility he's able to exert with the rest of his team was a key factor in their win against EDG, and something that I'm hoping we'll get to see against WE in this one, Mark.
For sure. And the other thing that we had to note in that second game in particular, what made that draft so special is Twisted Fate being picked early. We're always expecting it's going to be mid lane Twisted Fate.
Right.
EDG seeing the Fizz counter pick as something that's popping up around the world, like, okay, well, let's just smash that. We're going to get a guaranteed counter pick. Unfortunately for them, Flandra's like, I can play Twisted Fate top lane, and then boom, Lissandra in the mid lane for Shanks. This Fizz from Sinyan, not able to get off the ground, not able to have the pop-off performance you might otherwise see happen in solo queue. And the fact that Flandra returning to some of the strengths that we know anyone's legend really try to boast when he is at his best is he's willing to pick outside of the norm. I know that when it comes to meta champions, maybe Flandra isn't necessarily the best in class versus the rest of his peers when they're also at their best, but the fact that he's able to dig deep into his pockets and be able to show and demonstrate the fact that, guys, I am willing to cook here. I'm willing to really think outside the box to give my team better direction. But now he's going to have to test that flexibility over against the victorious Cube and the rest of WE. Their starting five for tonight. We already mentioned it. Cube in the top lane, Monkey in the jungle, Karus mid lane, About and Arha at bot lane duo.
We're one, best of 5 away from then having a date with Top Esports, the winner of this going to be playing them. And then if you win that, you manage to get to MSI. And that would be a really big deal for both of these organizations, especially for WE, though, who have not made it to an international in 9 years. Mark, it has been a very long time for them, and the big thing is the win against BLG, I think, inspiring some confidence, but a lot of people probably not convinced that they're going to be able to hit those highs again. So I feel like a win against AL would prove that this wasn't just a fluke. This wasn't just BLG being cocky. This wasn't just them assuming they would get an easy 1-up over the 1-13 regular season team. They can actually play to that level, more than once. And I think this is a very fun opponent to see if that can be the case, as I've always felt AL are a bit more of a macro-oriented team. So the brains of Team WE might get tested in this series.
And WE definitely cooked BLG when it came to just constantly baiting them into the chaos that WE, when they are at their best, really tend to thrive in. And for BLG's credit, you can at least look to the regular season and understand that these guys have been playing the best in their roles for a majority of the period of that duration. They are not only the defending LPL champions, they are the defending international champions, having taken home the trophy from First Stand. So BLG are taking a lot of these fights against WE, as we'll get a chance to roll the tape from this series. Multiple skirmishes that they think, guys, we are the best team in the league. We have the best players in our role, as voted on by the official LPL broadcast. First time we've ever seen.
It's a curse. It's a curse. The first All-Pro is a curse.
Yeah, first All-Pros in every single role. And WE say, hold my non-alcoholic beverage. Let's get things cooking here. This is a family-friendly stream, y'all.
Yeah, and even in this fight, we see Cube get a really crucial flank, and that kind of opens up the floodgates for Monkey on the right side to join in as the Nefiri. So the positioning from this top side is something that I think was really key in allowing them to one-up BLG in a lot of these skirmishes. Like, even look at this, angle from, I would say, the Rumble Ultimate separating Shun. Even though he gets the inset kick, like, there is an equalizer on top of my entire team separating me from them. They can't get involved. So just overall, some really functioning key positioning accommodations were done by Team WE to, I think, make these fights and these skirmishes the way they were.
And note that fight that they took, they were down 6,500 gold prior to winning that fight. And there's a world where they can actually carry out that game, come back from the deficit, and be up to this game 3, 2-0 on match point. But we're at a tie going into game 3. Monkey pulls out his first career Nidalee, at least recorded from the databases that we had, into Shun, who is a legacy Nidalee player alongside Kindred. Those are two of some of his most
Those
early...
are his characters.
Yeah, the well known on those two carries. But this game 3 not only was a highlight for Monkey on the Nidalee, where he's able to finish out the game using Lichbane and autoing the Nexus off of multiple
Chekhov's
skirmishes
Lichbane.
that kind of got them back into the game. But Cube in game 3 on the Renekton found some incredible TP flanks, which is where we really wanted to highlight Cube as having his best series in a long time.
Years, yes, absolutely. This was and I feel like I can't stress enough when Cube was actually able to gap Bin, because this felt like a game where him and Bin kind of went even in the laning phase. There wasn't too much action in the top lane between the two, players on that role in the laning phase. But then once Cube kind of left top lane, got more involved in the fights, that's when he really started to thrive. Really good TP angles from the Renekton, like you said, being able to have that impact in the 5v5s that Bin just wasn't able to match. And so I think we're talking about both of these top laners, not in their laning prowess, but in their ability to have, that splash effect with the rest of the team, that camaraderie with the rest of their squad, and really make these team fights something to look at, which is an interesting angle, I think, to take this matchup, because most of the time you talk about this role in the 1v1 and how they're going to be able to outplay each other. But I think how they function with the team and how they're able to operate post 20 minutes once we get to the mid to late game is really what I'm looking at.
There was I don't remember if it was an interview, but I remember after the end of the series, there is some quote that, whether it was a journalist or some media, gotten a chance to talk to Cube, and he mentioned how this is a feeling that he never wants to forget, and this was the best that he had felt in many years, in a very long time. And I can't blame him. We on this broadcast have unfortunately given Cube a very hard time for many months, because anytime Cube finds himself and the rest of WE in group ascend within the past couple of years, he has not looked nearly as competitive with the rest of his pool, with the rest of his role, and often finds himself struggling at the bottom and just kind of being weak-sided because he's seen as a liability. But being able to step up huge in this series alone, I don't care who you are, I don't care what history you've had, I don't care how many stinker games you had, if you are able to pop off against BLG and Bin after the performance they demonstrated at First Stand and marking them as the best team in the world at that point in time, that is a way to get a revitalization, a second wind in yourself as a player. And for anyone's legend, I want to shift the conversation back over to them, because now that WE have taken down... Yeah, exactly. Like, if you can beat BLG, anything is possible. Any opponent is beatable for WE.
For sure. And I think if we're talking about players who have been kind of doubted, who have been scrutinized for their play in the past, and we want to shift it over to AL, look no further than Hope, who I think also had an incredible series for himself. A quadra-kill and a pentakill, one of the better series that I think we've seen from him in Split 2 particularly, and this is when they needed him to step up the most, and I think he absolutely did. Anytime you have discussions about AL, and you kind of talked about how they've kept this squad together throughout 2025 and going into 2026, a lot of people, particularly those in the 1XN fan club, have been discussing maybe, Hope hasn't been performing to the level of some of his teammates, to the level of some of the other 80 carries in his pool, so maybe we get like a swappage in there here and there. But I think that he shut those up last series. I think that he had an amazing performance and really kind of had a playoffs level that we haven't seen from him yet. Since, like, I would say Split 1 regular season, when AL managed to finish first in Group Ascend there. And it has been cool to kind of see him at that level again. And now he's going to have to kind of hit that high, much like what we were talking about with Cube, where you have to do it more than once and really step up to the plate.
I just always have a soft spot for Hope. And even amidst a lot of the criticism, especially when it's fairly given, Most of the time, though, I think people harp on Hope and his inconsistencies a little too much because it's the easy thing to do. It's easy to just continue repeating a stigma that has gotten over delivered. But Hope has struggled. Hope has had some games where anyone's legend really need someone to step up, because during the regular season, Tarzan and Kyle, they went on a streak where they were looking like they were back in form, but the way they were doing it was not necessarily always the smart macro gameplay that we really came to know them for in 2025. All this year has been anyone's legend trying to push themselves mechanically and in micro interactions where they're trying to hands check people. They're trying to essentially bully out the enemy jungler, especially here in Split 2 regular season. I can't tell you the amount of times Kyle is leaving lane and linking up with Tarzan, trying to flip the game early on and create a massive advantage. Sometimes it works out and pays off well, but other times, when it doesn't work out well, it causes anyone's legend to really fall disastrously behind because they don't know how to make a intelligent comeback. They just continuously try to hand check.
Is definitely, yeah. Their comeback ability, as far as like Ascend teams go, this isn't like a metric that we measure with like a ton of seriousness, keep in mind, but I feel once they fall behind, they are a team that generally does stay behind. There are games where I feel AL could have the ability to come back and they just don't. So that's why I think the first 15 minutes of this series are going to be so important, because much like what we talked about with their final best of 3 in the regular season up against BLG, this is a team that has the capability of team fighting very, very well. Tarzan usually leads the direction of this squad, and so we're going to have to see him have the ability to do that. And if they leave the first 15 to 20 minutes behind gold, generally that's when they get a little bit desperate and they look uncoordinated, like you're talking about, as we see the other team WE with their walkout. You know, I saw a tweet, I forget who it was from, but they said whoever aura farms harder tends to lose, Mark, with the walkout. Since we've started playoffs.
I think that was you, and she's right, because first, BLG had Knight sitting on the bonjour, or the chair, to start off their match against WE, and then they lose 1-3. Then we also had the upper bracket semifinal yesterday with Top Esports versus JDG. Top Esports was very tame in their walkout, but Gala had the flag of JDG on his back, and he was kind of mogging them at the walkout. But then JDG are the first ones to fall from the upper bracket to the lower bracket now, which now gives us this line and thread that we're not going to see both of our first stand representatives return to MSI together. One of them is not going to make it at this point.
They're going to meet, I think, a lot sooner than a lot of people anticipated, for sure. But, you know, we're talking about the walkouts here, Mark, so the question must be begged. Who aura farmed harder, in your opinion? Because this will have implications for later on in the series.
This is what I'll say. All of anyone's legend went for the point together, so they had kind of like the synchronization going on, but Monkey leading the charge is kind of just welcoming his entire team, and everyone else is on top of it. So I think if you compare one individual, I think Monkey aura farmed the most, but anyone's legend as a team aura farmed.
So Monkey's gonna underperform is basically what we're alluding to, because he aura farmed the hardest.
But then anyone's legend all aura farmed together.
All right, so it's a cube carry game, is what I'm hearing. It's another cube masterclass. That's the plan here from the script writers. I think that, you know, going into this best of 5, there is potentially some revenge in the eyes of Team WE. Like we said, they have gotten eliminated from playoffs both times, or you know, twice in the last year, rather, by AL. We are in the upper bracket, so wouldn't be elimination necessarily. But it would be nice for Team WE to finally get that best of 5 win over AL that they have been chasing for quite some time now as an organization.
And with this current placing in upper bracket semifinal, they are close to tying their highest finish in playoffs recently, which was top 4 last year in Split 2 of 2025. But if they were to take the series off of anyone's legend, not only one series win away from MSI at that point, but they would already eclipse their highest playoff placing in a long time for a top 3 guarantee finish. But here we go, y'all. Draft 1 underway. Multiple jungle bans already taken off the board from WE.
No mid lane bans either, so the pools are wide open for Karus and Shanks, and I wonder kind of how both of these teams are going to have a read. I feel like there's a bit of a rock, paper, scissors match going on with mid laners where you have like the Ryze, the Orianna, and the Cassiopeia all as these heavy priority mid laners, each with their own counters and things that can go wrong for them, but it just kind of sings to what a team wants to do when they pick their mid laner. And already Team WE wanting to play coordinated, wanting to play that death ball style that they did against BLG, which is why they lock in the Orianna.
Okay, so by doing this with Lucian Milio up, I think they're also trying to bait that interaction forward and deny any good Orianna ball carriers that Monkey would like to grab, aka the Nefiri. And I think the Nefiri was so special for Monkey to have in that first game against BLG in the first round of playoffs. This is a tough decision and a tough call for WE to make, but they decide to say, you know what? We trust the Monkey's champion pool. We'll allow them to ban the Nefiri potentially going into the second round. We want to guarantee a strong bot lane matchup.
But Vi is open, so I feel that you are opening yourself up to not only getting poked out in the laning phase, potentially by this Ashe Seraphine, who far eclipses you in the range department, but once you get out of the lane and shift about an Arha over to mid to try and get that priority, you're also opening yourself up to an un-breath of lifeable ultimate in the cease and desist. So I think it forces Tarzan into this pick. If they read on that and they have a counter for Monkey to play, I will be interested to see, maybe potentially what that is. But as it stands, even though you get the Lucian Milio, I do think this is a pretty difficult game so far for About and Arha to play. And maybe you want to draft up some frontline for the Lucian Milio.
The Fury banned immediately by anyone's legend. Wow.
We're on fire
WE, WE now have to come up with other possible Orianna combinations, because getting Monkey ahead and getting him linked up with Karus was such a pivotal factor for WE's success into BLG and constantly keeping Shun and Knight as a duo on the back foot. They're going to eliminate this Akali, since Akali, while not bringing any CC, there's not much that Lucian Milio can stop or prevent from being able to deny that assassination potential. I like the Olaf snipe as well, not just because it's good in the Baron lane, but because Monkey in particular, that is a signature champion that you might not think of it as a traditional Orianna ball carrier, but just giving him command protect, shields, and the movement speed with command dissonance, those are all nice utility spells for Olaf to use to thrive even harder in those fights.
And it's a total nightmare to face if you do want to draft up some space making from the rest of WE, which I think they still desperately need. You don't have any tanks on the side of a Lucian Milio, which means that he's not going to be very well protected if an Olaf does get locked in. So I think the ban is very wise from AL. Now, though, Ryze is open, and I think we're just going to get a classic matchup here for the mid laners in game number 1. But now for WE, I mean, you need frontline, right? And maybe the ball delivery doesn't come from the jungler necessarily, Mark. Maybe it comes from the top lane. If Cube wants to bust out something that can pair well with the Orianna, that is also an option. This Jace Hover, I'm not sure I like this. Doesn't fulfill the front line that we say is kind of required whenever you lock in a short-range bot lane like Lucian Milio. And also, you're not going for a poke comp. So I think that this doesn't really fulfill any of the needs that we have called for so far for WE, and puts a lot of weight on Monkey's shoulders here to lock something in. Do you go like Xin Zhao here? Like, I feel like that might be your best bet. If you want
frontline or tanks, like Skarner makes the most sense in my mind. Okay, Wukong kind of saves it, but I agree with you that the fact that there is no frontline, there's no dedicated tank for WE side, can run into issues into anyone's Legends composition. And oh boy, Flandra has been putting in so much time on this Vayne if you go and check his solo queue accounts, and we know that this was something that has been in the works ever since the regular season when Swayon kind of introduced the Vayne top lane meta to Bin, and specifically with that Gnar counter pick matchup. But
nightmare.
Jace is someone that also can suffer in these marksman ranged matchups as well. But as we talked about WE not having a front line, neither does anyone's Legend. So the same concerns we have for both of these teams exists, where if you fall behind, the enemy team has more than enough gauge to force fights on you that you're going to struggle trying to slow down.
And a big concern that I have is I feel both of these comps are indexing into those double carries. You've got the two marksmen and then you've got the Jace pairing on the top lane, right? So for me, I think that AL have eloquent tools in order to shut down both of the Lucian and the Jace, whereas it's not really the case for the other side. I think that WE are going to have to deal with both an Ashe and a Vayne in these team fights, and they don't have the tools to focus them both. So if either of these guys get ahead, or nightmare scenario, both of them get ahead, these team fights are going to be very difficult to play out because you're going to be so split trying to deal with both marksmen, just running the map and running the fights.
One other concern I do have for anyone's Legend side is while you have damage follow-up with Ashe Arrow Encore onto any target that Vi goes for, she doesn't have necessarily divers that are going to be with her as well. But we'll see whether it affects Tarzan's ability to snowball the map or if it's not going to be a concern at all. It's time to hit Summoner's Rift for Game 1 between WE and anyone's Legend. Gavin, is it just me, or does WE have more fans in
today? It's not
today?
just you. I was going to say, WE's volume level, like the decibels are increasing along with the hype that this team has just now brought to the LPL playoffs. Upset over BLG, and now against AL, the 4th seed going into the playoffs. If they can make it happen, the decibels will get higher, and WE will be one step closer to potentially getting onto an international for the first time in 9 years. This team on the come up. It's super exciting to watch, Mark.
Hell, when you take down the defending LPL champions, word is definitely going to spread around like wildfire, and that is already reflected in these crowd showings. Monkey starting up on the top side of the map, matching Tarzan, where he is pathing from top to bot, full clearing, but Monkey is going to take a pit stop on this top side. Love the variance and trying to throw off Flandra's game. He already burned the exhaust. At most, he might have to burn a flash. Monkey flash to guarantee the red buff slow and get as much damage onto Flandra's health.
Oh!
Commit to the dive, and it works!
I did not think that was going to work out. I figured it was just going to be a flash burn from Flandra, but the crucial difference maker is Cube committing to the play along with his jungler. It forces Flandra to burn that summoner early, and then Monkey follows it up with the E. So really good coordination there from the WE top side. Will possibly cost the Wukong his blue buff, but a small price to pay for salvation, Mark.
Ensuring Cube is set up for success in the matchup that he is getting countered by. Flandra now has no summoner spells. Cube still has a TP advantage, and the wave is frozen. Monkey pulling on Arha and about to at least guarantee that he is not denied multiple camps on the bottom side of the map. And remember, Tarzan is only one camp ahead with the denial of this blue buff, but he's not necessarily pulling ahead of Monkey, and Monkey is still ahead of gold because of that first blood expended to take down Flandra.
But it's not really the gold that I'm worried about for the Vi, it's the experience. And so you getting that camp up and then also just having generally better timers on your camps once you go for that reset, I think is going to allow the Vi to hit 6 sooner, and then you really get on the map. So I think until that kind of happens, Monkey has to make the best of this situation where Tarzan can't really be this heavy force in the early game without that cease and desist. And you can see he's already making more aggressive moves, hitting a blast cone, going over the river, taking that topside crab, and then just placing himself right back toward the top side, making sure that Flandra can't push that wave up in the matchup.
An exciting first 3 minutes has definitely quieted down. Tarzan playing a more consistent game plan, whereas Monkey already introducing the variants. Means that if he wants to further continue the snowball, he has to make a repeat visit sometime soon before Flandre gets his summoner spells back up, at least that flash. A lot of aggressive trading between Kyle, Hope, and About and Arha, and it ends up with the Ashe and Seraphine combo pushing Melee away, forcing him to flash away from the beat drop.
There's the range advantage we talked about. Hope and Kyle making the most of that with the Ashe Seraphine combination, going to get that flash away from Arha. About still retains both his summoner spells, but now Flandre taken to about half. Monkey is right back toward the top lane.
Making sure that Flandre doesn't get to play the game on this Vayne counter pick. She offers no utility whatsoever. Oh my goodness, Scorch almost is enough
10 HP
to take her out.
Yep, living on barely double-digit HP. You could see that Shanks was trying to move to do something about this play from WE, but he didn't have the ultimate at the time. You didn't have that Realm Warp, so he is just kind of jailed in his own lane. Of course, Tarzan on the bot side. Flandre is having a rough laning phase so far, down about half of the CS, and burning that flash, of course, still down, and does give Monkey the opportunity to go for repeat ganks. But while this is happening, while he's putting Vayne behind, he's also inadvertently putting himself behind Mark. He's only level 4, and we can see Tarzan is level 5, getting closer and closer to that ultimate.
He's putting a lot of faith into Cube and him being able to pay that back with a stable laning phase guaranteed, since this Vayne counter pick wants to be able to punish Jace in the side lane, but hasn't had the space to be able to do so with all of Monkey's attention. Dragon has been up for the past 50 seconds, and normally Vi can clear that insanely fast, but she hasn't had the opportunity to do so, trying to make her way to level 6, is one camp away, and it's all about that fight for the bottom side crab. But Tarzan is just going to go for the dragon instead, knowing that Monkey does not have enough stacks for that 1k smite advantage, and is just going to take the free objective.
That plus they saw the Wukong crossover through mid lane, so they understand that Monkey's on the top side and can't really threaten this dragon. They're not going to contest this, and I think once this dragon gets started, Monkey might get the green light to look for another play in top, but he's also fishing for potentially something in mid. But Shanks is hovering the bot side, so good map sense there from the Rise. They know the Wukong is top, and you can see already some hovers from AL around this bot side to look for a dive.
And with all this attention that Monkey has put on top side, it allows Tarzan to equally put the same amount of pressure on Arha and About. They are forced off this laning phase. Kyle and Hope can very easily just step past the turret, deny more experience, deny more gold from About's Lucian, and despite this bot lane supposed to have an easier time and an advantageous utility matchup into what the Ashe Arrow and the Encore are trying to do for you with the Breath of Life, you're not going to be able to use that if you continue falling behind in levels.
All right, so we've got the grubs up in a little less than 40 seconds. I think with the amount of pressure and confidence that WE are putting into Cube to get these plates and get a leg up over this Vayne, having those grubs to accelerate that gold lead that has been built up through over the top laners is going to be really important. But Monkey, crucially, hasn't reset in a while. Meanwhile, we just saw Tarzan do that. As
About's going in. Oh, he gets dinged by the Ashe Arrow, but he is confident to step up with the calling Encore. Ooh. He dashes out of it. Nicely done on the Lucian, but Arha, remember, no flash from before. One more on attack from Hope's Ashe. Takes down the Milio, and Shanks is here to make About pay for overstepping his welcome on the side lane. Shanks gets paid.
All right, good roam there from the Rise. Doesn't have to use the Realm Warp either. Will miss a little bit of experience. We'll actually pick up that cannon, so there you go.
Monkey has Cyclone, pops up Tarzan with the knockup. Blue buff is secured by Tarzan. Can he make it out alive? Second cast of the Cyclone is already used, but Monkey has a Nimbus strike, throws up the thumbs up. Hope it was worth the time to try and steal my camp away.
Yeah, good punish there from Monkey, punishing the overstay from Tarzan. I assume that the AL jungler was probably thinking that the Wukong was on the grubs, just trying to farm for that objective. So misreads that, Monkey punishes, and gets himself his second kill of the game. Still, though, has not recalled. I think he's sitting on quite a hefty sum of gold, and so this timer, this delayed back from the WE jungler is going to allow the swap actually from AL to come through, and they're going to get themselves priority for this neutral that we said WE really wanted to get to continue having Cube in a good game state.
And the cool thing about this lane swap, Gavin, is that this is something that you were mentioning that AL did specifically into EDG to make sure that Hope could have some resources. Flandra popping the Dark Hour, the final hour, just to get to lane. And he pops the exhaust so he can cut down a bout's damage.
Are they going in?
I don't know if he's going to survive under the tower, but Arha cannot tank the turret any longer. Flashes out of the turret range before it heated up too much, but now Chorus and Monkey are making their way down towards the bottom lane. I mean, poor Flandra is going to be naturally down 1,000 gold just because he cannot get any resources.
And this just makes the team fighting for Team WE that much easier, as now Cube is in a world of trouble.
Well, what they did to Flandra, Cube is about to receive from anyone's legend. 4-man dive. Shanks is the one that starts it up, and he can always walk out of the turret range. It's just pristine and super clean from the Pandas.
And I feel like we're seeing that, you know, classic AL macro come through here, because every play that Team WE have made has been responded to by a cross map. We saw the punish there from Monkey to kill Tarzan on his blue buff, and then immediately AL go for the swap, get priority, dig out kind of that topside river with vision, and then they get the grubs. And then Monkey goes for a dive on the bot side, looking to try and finish off that low HP Vayne. They're like, okay, he's on bot side, we're gonna go to the top side, and they get a successful dive. So even though Team WE have built up a 1k gold lead for this Jace so far, it feels like AL are out macroing them at this point, and unless WE can get something concrete for Cube in the next few minutes, you're gonna kind of be running on empty with this pick, in my opinion, as maybe that opportunity comes in about 40 seconds with this dragon.
I love how the Pandas are responding with, oh, you are making our Vayne useless? Well, we're going to make your Jace just as useless. And therefore, we're going to be at an even state. But the fact that they have picked up both the dragon and all 3 grubs gives them an inherent advantage over WE going into the mid game, as we are 20 seconds away from the second dragon spawning.
We could see that WE specifically have a little bit more presence on that bot side, but AL have priority in both lanes, so they can easily kind of clear out that vision that WE have established. But Tarzan is actually crossing over to the top side. Shanks has ultimate, and they're probably looking for something onto Q, but that ward is going to spot them out, so good coverage from WE. And yeah, now the dragon is up, Monkey is in the river, and if he's there, I think they can battle back for some of this priority and try to at least challenge for this objective.
Little tricky at the moment. Hope and Kyle currently have push. About is trying to fight for priority, throwing out the culling, but it's answered by an arrow from Hope. Monkey's on the flank. He's spotted by the control ward. They're trying to speed on out. Hope immediately flashing away. Monkey will not pop the Cyclone here. Can save it. Beat drop does slow him down, but meanwhile, Kars was caught on rotation by Shanks and Tarzan. A lot of damage down onto Vi's health bar, but she's still alive, and she still has a smite coming up to see if she can flip it.
Tarzan is very low on HP. You also see Cube on that top side was waiting in the wings to maybe teleport to that play, a summoner spell that unfortunately Flandra, having not completed that quest yet, does not have access to. So with that all in mind, AL are going to give that dragon. WE finally getting neutral, and we're going to have to see if this actually ends up doing anything in the long run, as I do think this Jace is starting to run into the issue of, yes, the Vayne is ahead, or yes, the Vayne is behind, but I also am not making a ton of stuff happen on the map. We need to start getting some value out of this quote-unquote ahead Jace. As we get a replay here, yeah, Kars just picked off in rotation. Good ultimate to try and stall for time, but unfortunately no one was around. Does chunk out Tarzan enough, though, and that ultimately, I think, gives WE the win by getting the dragon.
It allows them to deny Drake stacking from anyone's legend, which is very crucial since this is a Hex Tech map. And if AL were going into the mid game with 2 dragons and 2 dragons away from Hex Tech Soul, that would have not been a good scenario for WE to try and dance around in. But first item spikes have come online for a majority of carries here. The only lane that has yet to really see that outside of the support role is top lane, and that is just because both of Cube and Flandra have not had the most heartwarming welcome from either teams in their laning phase so far.
The opposite team really hates the enemy top laner, and I think this is kind of a read we expected going into the game, because we talked about how effective both of these guys were in their most recent best of 5, being able to have that cross-map pressure and being able to play with the rest of the team in a way that allowed them to get a leg up. We haven't been seeing that so far in game number 1. Now, obviously, we are still early into the match. The quests were only just recently completed, so teleport is now available for both top laners to start getting that cross-map presence that we know them for, but I do think both teams have had a relatively good read on the opposite squad's strengths thus far.
So this is going to be an interesting allocation of lane assignments. WE are sending Cube's Jace into what they assume is going to be the Rise, and having Cars answer Flandra's Vayne, who has hit that Hex Plate, Power Spike. Jace for Cube has already finished the Yomu's Ghost Blade, is stacking up the tier as well, halfway to another item as well. But because AL's majority of their numbers are here on the top side, Rift Herald will be secured. Meanwhile, for WE, they can at least secure a tower for themselves. And if I'm not mistaken, that's actually first brick in the game.
It is first brick in the game, and we're starting to see the benefit of the Hex Gates. I think this is something that both of these junglers, who are kind of the directors for their team macro-wise, are going to make full use out of, just having the ability to cheat the timer in which you can cross over the river and cross back into the action in the map, as Hope almost gets 100 to 0'd by the culling from About, but does manage to live. And that Herald was taken by AL, but we can see just how much vision WE have on that bot side. It is allowing them to siege the mid turret and give more space over to themselves.
They should be able to pick up this tier 1 in the mid lane too. You saw that Cube was also covering the rotation from Shanks, making sure that if he tried to look for a Realm Warp collapse, he could easily just punt him away with that Hammer Form E. TP now coming in from Cars to cover this top side. I know we were praising AL's macro and their responses to WE's aggressive looks in the first 10 minutes, but I have to say, this was an impressive sequence from WE, being able to get the better end of AL on the map.
Yeah, you go to the bot side, you use the Hex Gates to get there, get vision, dive the mid tier 1, force AL away from that, and then protect your own top side tier 1. Good overall macro coming out from them, as we see... Oh, I think the last second spotted the command protect, so they know Karis is here as well.
Oh, no. Monkey and Cars think they have a trap lying in wait, but it's them that are getting baited into the counter trap. They jump on the Shanks first. Monkey sends it with the Cyclone.
Monkey!
The Shockwave on top of it as well. But here comes Hope and Kyle and Tarzan to deflect the attempt, thwart the gank itself, and WE lost out on their 2 carries in Monkey and Karis. And now AL with a fantastic punish can look for more.
He's going back in.
Tarzan, okay, sends it a little too far into WE, disrespecting the damage that Cube had on the Jace, but Hope wants revenge onto About's life. Barrier popped by both AD carries, and Hope wins out on the AD carry duel. And just like that, one crucial ward in the top lane bush allows AL to eradicate the entire gold advantage that WE had.
They get the turret, they get some gold, and now they're going to be able to reset. Hextech Dragon map also means they'll be able to get to that river a lot faster on the redeploy as we go back into a live replay. I like the play here from Team WE. They understand they have to one-shot Shanks before Kyle comes in, aren't able to do it, and then the TP from Cube is just too little, it's too late. He's also just too squishy, so he actually manages to get away, but 2 end up falling. And then this just kind of felt like Tarzan... assuming his team was closer, he gets taken down. But now we're right back to live, and Dragon is up. Both of these teams really vying for that objective.
This doesn't put either team at soul point, but it is still very crucial to deny these Dragons away from the other.
Monkey!
Away from the Cyclone, this time on a Shanks who did not have flash from before. WE are just fearless regardless of the circumstances of what happened from before. And AL, yes, they set up a beautiful trap last time, but this time it just didn't seem like they were expecting it at all.
You know what they say, Mark. If you at first you don't succeed, try again. Team WE, now they get the one shot onto Shanks. All of AL scatter. Second dragon belongs to them. And there's nothing on the other side of the map that they can really take. Tier 1 top lane turret has already been taken. And this bot side, frankly, belongs to Team WE. If you look at the vision line they have established, you are not getting any surprises on them over there.
I think when it comes to WE and what they demonstrated into BLG in their prior series, it was their persistence. Regardless of how behind they were, what the goal deficit was, WE still were fighting tooth and nail to find ways back into the game. Karis is going to try to flash away, but the cease and desist will connect. Monkey is here, but no Cyclone available just yet. Karis has to rely on Monkey just being enough of a front line to hold them in their place. He's doing everything he can just with the red buff slow, but Shanks eventually gets the distance closed and makes a 1-for-1 trade, but Kyle will fall to Monkey next as Arha and About make the collapse cube there as well for reinforcements, and the rest of anyone's legend, they're starting to make the same mistake that BLG made into WE.
It's saving Private Karis. Unfortunately, he goes down, but he forces all of AL to way overextend themselves, and they get a 2-for-1. Now comfortable to start up the Baron, Mark.
This would be quite the bold flip. Tarzan still alive. Can he get in and deny it? Oh, Monkey is just baiting them in, looks for the Flash Cyclone, but Hope is able to make his getaway. Tarzan falls for it. Hope bops the barrier. Monkey's still fearless as he continues the chase. You just cannot underestimate the form that WE are coming into playoffs with.
Monkey is bold in this game. Health bars be damned. Situation be damned. He goes forward, Mark. They don't get the Baron, but they get some kills. They accelerate their game state, and they are ahead of the curve with AL at 20 minutes into the game. We talked about the 15-minute mark for AL, where if they aren't ahead in gold by around this 15 to 20-minute timer, they tend to fall apart. They tend to get desperate. Now, we might start seeing shades of that desperation come through.
And I have to point this out, Quacks. I know both of us are junglers, and we are familiar with a lot of Wukong builds. I don't think either of us have ever seen experimental Hexplate on Wukong, but Monkey knows how crucial it is to provide the initiation, to provide the CC on a team that has very limited engage options. That's going to give you it with the ultimate ability haste on top of it.
And frankly, I don't think you're forced into going Black Cleaver right away. We talk about the lack of frontline for both of these squads, so the shred that you would get from that item isn't inherently valuable in this game. Just go for the extra tankiness, make yourself more durable. You need to be the guy leading the charge. You might not be a tank, but you can at least get more health. I love that read from Monkey because it is working out for Team WE in this game.
It's such an intelligent pivot, and now WE still ahead almost by 3,000 gold. This game isn't over yet for anyone's legend. They still have a lot of scaling in their stead with Flandra on this vein, who is slowly trying to come back in this game with resources. Shanks on a rise is still going to be the same terrifying threat that a 3-item rise will be once he gets there. The question is, are WE going to continue slamming their feet on the acceleration pedal like they have all game long so far?
That definitely is the question. I mean, the scaling from the rise is something to worry about, but I do have to comment again at just how far behind Flandra has been put in this game. Even though the gold lead has shrunk a little bit between Cube and Flandra, it was at 2,000, now it's a little less than 1K. It's still difficult for Vayne to find angles in this game. Kind of the courtesy that we extended toward the Lucian, where we said a short-range marksman into a comp like this is going to be difficult to play. I think you can say that exact same thing about the Vayne. Him going in here against a comp that has Monkey, has Arha, has all of this disengage from Team WE, can be very, very rough if you aren't ahead, and right now he definitely isn't. So we're gonna have to see kind of how he positions himself. He's got flash, he's got the exhaust, he's also got the teleport, so all of the tools are there for him going into this fight. I'm really looking at him to see if he can be that second marksman, if he can be that extra threat that AL need in order to turn this game around.
And while AL have been caught by surprise from WE a few times, Vision has been their best friend in being able to turn the tides.
Monkey
Immediately,
man.
Monkey sees Tarzan going forward with the fall breaker. Cease and desist as an angle. Cyclone double catch.
got Tarzan.
Tarzan is gone. Kyle dropping insanely low, but Hope is able to cut it out with Shanks.
Flandra's alone.
Four-man squad eliminate Flandra from the pack, and now Shanks will not get a chance to pop the railroad, but he does. There is no knockback from Cuban. Shanks doing everything he can to save this game one for anyone's legend, but Hope is not going to be able to survive as About slings on in with the Lucian, and Shanks, the last man standing, runs for the hills. WE climb this gold lead to 4,000.
And I mean, Arha is just trying to one-up Monkey in boldness. Goes for a flank as the Melio into 2 damage dealers of AL and manages to make it work. But you cannot one-up the Master. Monkey yet again goes in. No fear. His team is behind him. And he one-shots Tarzan along with the rest of his squad. Even though he gets taken down here, look at how low he puts Hope and Kyle in that fight. They completely are isolated. Flandra's left alone. We highlighted the positioning for Vayne that was needed going into this fight, but he was totally by himself. He wasn't allowed to position with the rest of his team because his team was out by the time he went in.
Quick moves from Arha, trying to go for a Q flash just to keep Shanks in range of About being able to collapse as fast as he could. But Shanks has so far been the most consistent player for AL this game, and potentially the last hope for AL so far and how this game has pivoted. Everyone else on WE has started to eclipse their opponents, their respective matchups in the gold department. But as we highlighted before, Shanks on a rise can always turn the tides here with the damage that he is able to pump out.
He is prioritizing Zhonya's, it looks like. Unless he's sitting on the arm guard, which I wouldn't be fully against, he is going to potentially delay his actualizer spike for survivability. I'm wondering if that is the correct call. Maybe he's just sitting on the arm guard, as now Karis is in a load of trouble.
It's a good pickup attempt from AL. Just go for the isolated Karis on the bottom side.
Baron.
But that gives an opportunity for WE to just rip the Baron here on the top. Can AL do anything about it? I don't think so. They are now slowly making the moves over there. They should have known this was at least a possibility. Ash Arrow comes in. The clone blocks it. Monkey secures the Baron. And WE are out of there.
Breath of Life completely exfiltrates WE from the fight, and it is definitely a worth it death there from Karis. As Baus would say, it is a good death. And overall, 4 members escape wearing purple. AL will get the mid lane tier 1, so might help them in the future setups around this dragon. But now the amount of gold Team WE can get on the map with this Baron, I think might overshadow that full force, because there are a bunch of tier 2 inner turrets standing and a lot of standing gold available for WE to take in the next 2.5 minutes while they have this Baron.
And it comes down to how much AL are willing to give that doesn't immediately lose them the game. Because once again, gold lead is not that far ahead for WE. 3,000 seems like a lot, but we're only 27 minutes in. AL have the opportunity to make a comeback, and it just comes down to the right fight for themselves. But WE going to use this opportunity, knock out the tier 2 in the mid lane, now making their way down towards the bottom side to do the same in the bot lane.
All right, AL are trying to clear out these waves. You can see that they're kind of hovering around this bot tier 2. Shanks has to be very careful. Again, does have that arm guard, so can delay any potential dives for a bit. Maybe AL try to find an angle off of that to bait WE, but frankly, this turret is so low now that they can probably just finish it and then turn onto AL. That is a very real possibility, as About looking for another culling onto Hope gets him to a little bit less than half, and just the siege power of this Baron, AL can't respond to it. They don't have appropriate enough wave clear.
Thank you, replay observers. Hope had used his arrow, was trying to fish for something in the mid lane, and it was a complete whiff, which gives the opportunity for About to safely just go for a quick chunk in the mid lane. Inhibitor is already gone in mid. Flandra forced to step back from the pressure of WE. 5,000 gold ahead now for WE, but they have a lot of unspent gold. So anyone's legend just need to stay calm and allow WE to take as much as they can without giving over the game entirely. About steps up, starts to damage the Nexus turrets. Sees some assist
going in
right onto the target of Monkey. Cyclone at least deflects
Monkey's
it for a
full
while.
HP.
Encore was already used. Shanks goes golden with the Seeker's arm guard, but he's the first one to fall. Can anyone from any legend step up and defeat them? Cube finally gets deleted by Hope, and he has to step up and defend AL's base from defeat. WE now on the retreat, and Chorus will be caught out alive. Flashes away from the Vault Breaker, but the double beat drop connects. About steps back up, but the whole Bash Arrow comes back off cooldown. Monkey's gonna trade Flanger for his life.
Monkey!
Monkey! Peak Prime form has returned! A glimpse of Split 2 playoffs from last year is finally here, and WE are ready to go the distance, leading the series 1-0.
Monkey is elated on the player cams. He is unleashed in the game from benched to benching all of the weight of his team in the last team fight. AL fall, and WE lead the series 1-0 mark in convincing fashion, if I do say so myself. Wow.
What an eclectic way to end the game. I didn't think it would just end like that. There was multiple times where I thought to myself, okay, WE can just back off. They got their damage done. They lost a member here. It's time to walk away. And Monkey just bites down and says, nah, I'm better. Let's finish this game right here, right now. And trusting in himself, this confidence, this braggadocio from Monkey is something that we were really excited about when he first started coming into his form for WE last year. And already, Quacks, I am starting to get very, very similar flashbacks of that magical run that WE made. And mind you, that was in the lower bracket. They are starting in the upper bracket this time around with this run. Now, let's take a step back. It's just the first game. We won't be first game Andes, but it's an impressive showing.
No. We're getting hyped. We are getting hyped. Okay, listen. The series against BLG it moved the world. It was a crazy upset, and we need to get excited for the idea that a 1-13 team not only just beat the first seed, but now is one up over AL, a team definitely no one should be scoffing at, and they did it. Mark, our biggest question was, is this just lightning in a bottle for Team WE, where they beat out BLG and that's it? That just it upsets the bracket, but not much else is going to come from them? Or is this a consistent new peak form that we have found this team in? And from a game like that, I think you can safely assume it is the latter, and that deserves the hype that we should be giving it.
You know what?
What a turnaround.
I'm sold. I'm
yes.
sold.
Yes.
I'm sold. I really do want to see this WE make the distance with this kind of momentum. Now, looking back at what anyone's legend did well before things started collapsing, I think is what they're going to be trying to draw upon for inspiration going into game 2. And that is some of the more intelligent macro cross-map decisions that they were making early on when they recognized, okay, WE are dropping resources to dive our top Vayne. Okay, they're dropping resources to go for this bot lane play. Let's make sure that we're on the cross map. Let's make sure that we are always trading up. And then the signature thing for anyone's legend, which, as you called out, classic AL from the days of 2025, is then waiting for the proper objective fight when everyone spikes up from the gold that they got on the cross map to then take a proper fight. But I don't know if we really got a proper fight with this composition.
Not
with
really.
All 5.
No, we really didn't. And I think a large part of that was due to them playing around a double marksman comp, and one of the marksmen was basically just shut down right from the get-go. I mean, Flandra died really early on. It made it very difficult for the Vayne to have really any kind of usefulness in the game. And so I just feel AL's draft was immediately kind of taken down a peg right from the get-go. So really intelligent read there from Team WE. I do, however, agree with you on the upsides of AL's gameplay for game number 1. I felt like some of the sequences in the cross-map plays were really nice. You know, WE would make a proactive play on one side, AL would respond by Tarzan going for an invade or going for an objective or trying to reciprocate a dive on the other part of the map that he knew WE weren't overloading on, like this. And I think that those early sequences worked, but some of them also just kind of went awry. Like, we saw multiple attempts to look for a dive that, because you didn't have a wave or you didn't have setup or you didn't know where a certain member was, they weren't able to execute on. So I just feel like WE were faster. When it came to making plays expediently, like snap engages, they beat them out every single time. And I think that AL just weren't quick enough on the trigger finger to try and match them in that regard.
There are a couple of decisions that Anyone's Legend made that were very, very smart, like that ward, spotting Monkey and Cars looking for a trap. And those are the kind of plays that I want to see AL continue to do. But when they are not getting the objective setup first onto WE, it is WE that is just pulling the trigger immediately and saying, time to fight, time to go, let's go.
Well,
and when,
and you know what is crazy, just quickly, even when they did get the objective setup, Mark, Monkey didn't care. He said, oh, you've got a line of wards? You could see me? Well, get my good side. As he goes in 1v4, his team is right behind him. I love the confidence that they played with. It made AL's setup totally irrelevant.
By the way, I know that we are kind of stalling and waiting for the official player of the game before we toss it to break. I'm going to let you all know right now, if it's not Monkey player of the game, then something has terribly gone wrong.
We're going to get
Monkey
upset.
Definitely gave WE the entire world and the keys to the kingdom. He set up Cube for success. He eliminated Flandra from the game and denied this Vayne from being able to have any real sense of impact. And then, to top it all off, this fight right here.
This fight, I'm looking. My God, like, yeah, me too, man.
Real.
I share hitting the desk. Like, I hit my desk a little bit too when they managed to do that. And even the Chinese commentators on the live feed are taking notice of it as well. Yeah. That was a really good game from Monkey. And we asked questions about his peak form and being able to kind of have that same Monkey style that I think made him so endearing in 2025. And over the course of the year, Mark, it has kind of been called into question on whether or not that style still works, whether or not it is still potent. From split number 1, where I think WE had a decent showing, but not necessarily on the level that some people were expecting. And then beginning of split number 2, where there were some really big questions, and then he got benched for Tyrion. So I think all of that and all of that doubt and all of just the fact that we are unsure of what his form looks like going into playoffs, and then him solidifying that answer for us now in playoffs, it makes it so much better, as it could not have been anyone else. And we are so happy, both as junglers on the broadcast, to see the jungler, much deserved, get the player of the game.
It wouldn't have been anyone else, realistically. No. Let's just keep it a buck. And as we toss to break, before we start getting ready for game number 1, y'all, if you'd like to support LPL English, consider becoming a coffee member, because coffee is the best way to support the LPL English project, since the vast majority of your contributions will go directly to the show. A lot of the initial payments go into upgrading the broadcast, but a huge bulk of it pays on-air talent and content creators. So subscribe to our coffee, linked in the chat, to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews. More WE and Anyone's Legend action coming your way right after this. Welcome back, y'all. We are getting ready to begin our second draft, hopefully in a very swift fashion, between WE and Anyone's Legend. Definitely caught off a little bit. I was thinking draft had already begun, but it's okay. We're just that excited because game one, oh boy. If you missed out, Gavin, how do we explain to the people what game one was about?
So basically, Monkey is Thanos with all 6 Infinity Stones and Faker on his side, coaching him from, you know, like the astral plane and telling him exactly what's going to happen. Past, present, and future are all coming at him, and he just understands. His teammates ask him, Monkey, are you okay? He said, they're not going to Baron. They're not going to Dragon. They're going home. WE in 3. TLDR.
Quacks thinks WE are about to send AL to the lower bracket in a 3-0 fashion, folks. Now, if it weren't for the BLG upset, I would call him crazy. And even before this series, if I had not watched that first game, I still would have been a little hesitant. But I'm starting to believe. And that very last fight where Monkey doubled down and went for the game-winning play, even when he had the opportunity to back off and just allow WE to reset for another fight. They had already taken many structures inside the base. That kind of just ruthlessness from Monkey is very reminiscent of when we were first getting extremely excited about Monkey last year in 2025. And remind you, WE had an insane miracle run in the lower bracket where they took down the likes of JDG in the first round, eventually Top Esports, dethroning the reigning champions and sending them home early, denying them a chance to represent LPL at MSI later, before then being stopped short by IG right before 3rd place. So we'll see how far WE can go now against AL, who lead the series and lead the second draft.
All right, into draft number 2. Draft number 1 had a startling lack of mid lane bans, and it looks like both teams are not going to be switching that up. Still locking down the Jarvan and the Nocturne. A lot of jungle focus coming through here, specifically from Team WE, who are now going to be on that blue side, but Akali going to be targeted toward Karis. Obviously, that comfort pick for him going to be denied. We do still have things like the Xin Zhao open if we want to open up with that, as well as a good plethora of bot lane pairings still around. Cassiopeia also here, but Ezreal is available. Karma is also banned, so I'm wondering what the pairing is going to be here. I'm thinking if WE really want to play around Monkey, then Bard has a lot of priority for Arha.
It would also be a good support to deny away from Kael. Definitely a signature champion for him at the height of AL's success. One of the things that Ezreal pick does for WE is that denies it away from Hope and allowing Kael to pick a champion that would give him the flight freedom and the flexibility to roam on the top side of the map, but he is blinding Nami without picking up the Corki alongside it just yet. That makes sense as the most likely pairing with it, but this means Kael's not going to have that much chances to roam safely, especially when Monkey has already locked in Nefiri.
So we got comfort picks coming through the roof here for Team WE. About is playing his most played. Monkey is playing one of his most played and easily one of his most famous. And then Cube is on his patented Scion. So already we're seeing some strong pickups here in the first phase for Team WE, but a lot of it centering around Monkey's champion. Again, going back to that BLG series, in game number 1 against them, Monkey was like finding Knight constantly with this champion, ulting onto him every single time. He was snacking on the first pro all team / MVP of the split like he was a bag of Cheetos.
And those snake flavored Cheetos were filling him up pretty good, giving him a massive snowball, and he was constantly ahead by 1 item against his opponent in Shun. There's no Vi to try and lock down the dog, even though that you can always avoid it with the well-timed call of the pack. Shenban coming out from WE, denying that and paying respect to Flandra's performance on that. Bard and Annie, however, denied from WE. Annie being one of those premier mid laners that is a nice pairing with a Nefiri, because you can guarantee a stun onto a target alongside the burst, and that will allow the first reset to always go through. So when you look at mid lane pairings now, no Ryze, no Annie. Next one up, if you wanted someone to bring point and click CC, would be something like the Twisted Fate, but I don't know if that is the best matchup into Cassiopeia. Meanwhile, Anyone's Legend looking at their option of a counter pick into the Scion, and what better way would it be for Flandra's signature Rek'Sai that he loves going to always in this matchup.
Oh, all right, so it's off to the races here for both junglers. Very early proactivity kind of being unlocked for both Monkey and Tarzan. It's just a question of who is able to get off to a hot start first. So a question of speed. And like we said, WE were really quick on the trigger last game, just making a lot of those plays, and AL too slow to respond with some of those cross maps. The Nico lock-in, I'm not a huge fan of. This is something that I saw from the LCK casters. They kind of talked about that, where they basically said, and I agree with them, to be honest with you, that Nico doesn't provide you any backline utility, doesn't really give you a lot of 2v2 power unless Ezreal is hitting like every single spell. You're picking Nico for the ultimate, and I feel that a lot of comps nowadays can just kind of shrug it off and be like, okay, you knocked us up. So anyway, now let's actually go for a team fight. We can just kind of breeze away from that. So I think that this is an interesting pairing, and one that also perplexes me in the sense that we really put emphasis on wanting to see a roaming support rather pair up with Monkey and allowing him to be that aggressive force that we have kind of built up for him to be. I don't think Nico achieves that to the level that I necessarily would have liked to see from this draft. As speaking of draft, looks like we're on a bit of a delay, Mark.
Yep. I wonder if that Nico was intentional, since that was the last champion locked in before the draft kind of kaputted. So I don't know, maybe your prayers might be answered in this Nico being taken back, and if that was the case, then
well, was it actually a bug, or did they accidentally click Nico? Because if it's the latter and lock him, because if it's the latter, then you're forced into it.
If it's player error, then well, that's when things get a little murky in the waters.
Well,
who picked
it? It was on 4, so About selected it. Do we think About would be one of the WE members to make that mistake, you know?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I think if it was a player error, then unfortunately, as we've seen in other tier 1 regions, when this happens, sometimes the ref will give them a freebie and be like, okay, listen, you're going to get what chance, but if it happens again, then you know the rules, and you got to be more careful with player selection. But that's why we're not sure yet whether it was a bug or if it was player interface error. But I want to go back to what AL had drafted. I think it is very, very good to mention the flexibility of Rek'Sai, because Rek'Sai jungle has been popping up around tier 1 regions in some niche cases. It is one of the ways that you can interact with Nefiri, because if she ever charges on to you, you can try and preemptively right-click on her while burrowed to get the knock-up and interrupt the Hound's pursuit damage from going through. If you also just intercept it with a flash, you can stop her from getting those resets going for herself. So I wouldn't mind it necessarily as a jungle matchup, but we know that Flandra has played this champion into Scion multiple times. It has been kind of his staple counter pick, because you do have a really good laning phase into it. Your sustain advantage over the Scion allows you to kind of push him out of the laning phase while maintaining a CS advantage for yourself. The question now comes down to, how well can Flandra actually make use of it? Because game 1, Flandra was given a counter pick, but not one with a lot of utility, and one that needed to be protected better, and Monkey ensured that Vayne did not do anything.
Right from the get-go. And to your Rek'Sai point, I think another very underrated advantage Rek'Sai brings you, even if it is top lane and not directly facing off against the Naafiri. Naafiri is an assassin, right? Can go for a lot of creative angles in fights, can look for flanks. Tremor Sense shuts that down. So you get a bunch of utility from that in setting up, which, like we said, was a point of concern we had for AL, as their setup was lackluster compared to what we're used to, first of all, and then second of all, by the time they did actually start, you know, placing down some of those deep wards and getting some of that setup required, it got to a point where Monkey just didn't care at that point. So I think that Rek'Sai allows you to maybe have that early information gathering with the addition of Tremor Sense.
Could be a solid argument for at least giving it over to Tarzan, and for them picking it in the 4th portion of their draft and still maintaining R5 up in the air. I think it's a nice way to at least open the conversation of, Flandre, are you willing to let Tarzan have this Rek'Sai and then pick something different once we see the entire composition from WE fully fleshed out? We still continue with the Rek'Sai. We'll now find out whether Nico was intended or if there was a different champion that WE had in the cards for themselves.
They're going to stall it out. So Nico was the lock-in, was not a mistake. So yeah, I'm going to reiterate it. Not a huge fan of this 2v2 and don't think that it gives Monkey the freedom of having a support in his back pocket that can really allow him to have those aggressive tendencies that we know him for early on in this game, as I am actually a pretty big advocate for the Ahri. I think this is a good matchup, and also you don't get the point-and-click anti-stun, but the charm services a similar function, so it can be a substitute for not having the guaranteed lockdown. This is still a good mid-jungle pairing, in my opinion, but that's really the only hard CC, as Trundle going to be the final lock-in here for AL, so... And it's Trundle. I think it's Rek'Sai top.
Okay. I was curious if... you know what? I'm going to wait until the draft finishes because they have until the 22nd mark to finish out the swap. And I'll save and reserve my thoughts. But speaking on the rest of the composition for WE that we know is fully locked in, a lot of playmaking with this Nico, a lot of playmaking with this Ahri. Naafiri can benefit on top of that. Q playing the frontline duty this time around, but at least thankfully for AL, they have this Cassiopeia that will be able to shred Sion in the later stages of the game. Corki technically can too, but needs a little bit more time to kind of rack that up. And with the draft being pulled down, it is confirmed. It is Flandre's Rek'Sai. It is Tarzan using the Trundle. I don't think it's necessarily the best matchup into Naafiri, but for the team utility, subjugate onto a Sion will give you a frontline advantage when you go in for the 5v5. And Trundle at least is stable enough where Naafiri can't kill you in those skirmishes early on anyway until she commits onto you. And if at that point, if she hasn't had you chunked up enough, you just beat her brains in with Chomp and your club.
I think another thing to look at is just generally the scaling for both of these teams is more or less even with each other. So we'll have to see how the late games pan out for sure.
WE chants are starting to grow louder here, Quacks. They're starting to believe.
They are indeed. So, looking at the comps, though, because we did fire away very quickly into the second draft, I'll call it. I do think that both of these teams have very similar comp archetypes where the junglers want to get off to an early start, be the carries for their team, and then they kind of pass the baton over to specifically their AD carries who are already at each other's throats.
About just using the power of this lethal tempo, Ezreal stacking up his max attack speed off of not only the Keystone, but also Ezreal's passive as well. That can always be deceptive into a level 1 bot lane all in. And Arha at his side, maintaining the push pressure. Both junglers pathing to the bot side of the map, so we'll see how much this health chunk advantage can be reaped in terms of rewards for either jungler.
And if you do have, you know, a major priority advantage as WE and as Monkey, you could maybe look to roam Arha up toward that part of the map and try to go for an invade. So Monkey has a tendency to look for plays like that, so maybe he decides to go for that pattern, though he is spotted on a ward, so an attempt at an invade would be discovered by AL if it did in fact happen. And I'm really interested to see how Karus actually shakes out in this game. I think we talk about Neferi in the context of what lockdown do you have to get those resets? Do you have CC to unleash with that ultimate? And I think for a comp like this, it's kind of difficult for Team WE. There isn't a lot of single target lockdown guaranteed for Monkey to play off of, except for, I feel that Charm is really the only single target CC that you have from Karus. So how he links up with the Neferi is going to be very pivotal, especially in the early to mid game.
I like the fact that Cube was able to get a mini proxy going, but then Flandra had a nice response in denying the early reset for a cheater base. So that forces Cube's hand to TP back to the top side and being denied what could have been a nice early tempo reset there. He will at least interrupt Flandra's push in for now. Both junglers returning to the top side of the map where Tarzan got the first crab. He's going to try to beat Monkey to the punch and make sure that he doesn't get a crab of his own, with Shanks still on the wave, having TP'd back first, and that should give enough priority to deny both of these crabs from Monkey's Neferi.
Karus had to get back to the lane with that teleport, like you said, so it just basically means he's not able to assist Monkey for jockeying of control of that topside river. So Tarzan already off to a relatively sizable camp lead. Also means that Monkey gets his back slightly delayed. He's actually going to stay, so he will beat you over the head with a club for sure, and he's just going to leap right over to the wall.
Monkey thought that Tarzan was going to go for his Raptors. Monkey tried to flip the game and look for a very greedy invade, and Flandra even tags on in, getting revenge for the way Monkey treated him in game one.
Flash seemed a little excessive, but still a good... I hesitate to even call it a punish because Monkey quite literally spun right into that one, as Shank's going to be chunked out here, but should still be able to survive. Just needs to get this wave in, but you can see how aggressively Arha and Karus are posturing up to prevent that from happening.
Oh, Charm Flash from Karus is just a little delayed. Shanks not even needing to use the Flash for the Charm, just having to use it to get away from the last tick of damage. Both mid laners now down both of their summoner spells.
Flandra picking up that kill from earlier. I am wondering how this is actually going to impact the lane, because we alluded a little bit to how this matchup is generally supposed to go. You as Rek'Sai have better sustain. With that empowered E, the full fury, you're able to get that true damage off and start chunking out this sound, just like whittling him down little by little. And so with an item advantage, with a gold advantage, I'm wondering if that is going to be that much rougher on the overall game state. Is now Monkey maybe looking to even the odds, but there's the Tremor Sense spotting him out.
Yep, you mentioned it. It's super hard for Flandra. Hang on.
Good dodge.
Unstoppable Onslaught is kind of hard to dodge. He uses the Void Rush to at least reset the fight, but even with Tremor Sense, you cannot avoid Unstoppable Onslaught, especially when you are down a Flash. At least for AL, they're going to get the first dragon of the game.
They spot Tarzan on that bot side and immediately look for a cross map. It's just like game number one, where both of these teams are just feeling the push and the pull of the early game, and it's led by these junglers looking for these unique angles for both of their teams. The captains of the early game ship, if you will, and both of them are steering quite accurately thus far.
Once again, we're getting similar looks from game one, where Monkey playing for the gank, AL playing for the objective play. Karus is going to show his face in the river. Tarzan forced to just smite away the crab and deny it. Does proc level 6 here. Subjugate will now be available while Monkey is still hunting for a couple more camps to hit that level 6 power spike of his own. Arha and About currently pushing Kyle and Hope away from the river, using the threat of Karus looming from Fog of War. He goes in for the Spirit Rush, now targeting Kyle on the Nami. The Summoner Heal was trying to dodge the charm, but cannot sidestep it in time and accepts his fate. Will not burn the Flash. Karus is on the board.
Karis is on the board, like you said. Kill going over to him. He will sacrifice about a wave under the turret here, and Shanks should be able to pick up this plate. He does. So, still, though, good for the Ahri. Good roam attempt there. I am really, however, looking at Monkey to get that level 6. We saw him get that kill in top lane to give him a slightly better gold state, but he is still behind compared to Tarzan, who is just so much CS up over him as this Trundle. And so he's got to start looking for those ganks, right? This is just the Monkey style. This is the aggression that we want to see from him, and this is a champion that requires you to keep fanning that flame in order to stay alive.
You gotta feed that hungry fire, and for Monkey, he might try and look bot lane, knowing that Kyle and Hope could be prone to overextending here, but they're going to be very respectful of any moves, as they did not see Monkey traversing over bottom side of the map here. We'll see how long Monkey is willing to wait. Hope has suspicions that
he's
something
got flash and
could
barrier
happen.
too. He should be able to get out of this if he even does look for an ultimate. And all of the time that Monkey is sacrificing on this bot lane to try and make this gank work, AL are just on the top side. They're going to be onto the grub. So just like game number 1, we're seeing AL's focus on the neutrals, whereas WE are just focused on trying to get these ganks to pan out. And unlike, I feel, game number 1, this early aggression really isn't coming to fruition. So it just kind of means AL are having a massive tempo advantage and are accelerating the pace of the game in their favor.
And I like this from Tarzan. He doesn't take all 3 grubs. He only takes 2. So it doesn't announce to the rest of the map that he is already on the way back on over here. And now Monkey looking for at least something with his time on the bot side of the map is going to find Tarzan invading back into his own jungle. Karis forced to use the Spirit Rush. At least for Monkey, he was able to secure the Gromp. Blossom onto 2, punishes the fact that Shanks still doesn't have flash on the Cassiopeia, and Tarzan thought that it was safe to farm his own jungle, but he did not realize that WE were willing to stick around.
And good chain CC there from Team WE. They lock down and kill Shanks before he can use the Petrifying Gaze. There's no disengage possible for AL. The reset comes through from Monkey. WE get everything they wanted on that aggressive play. And the ganks finally start to, well, the ganks and the invades, rather, start to pan out here. There is still a grub available on that top side. Like you said, Flandre only took 2. But now that might give an opportunity over for WE to shift over on the other side of the map and pick up this last one. Would give Cube just a little bit more strength on the side lane as this Scion.
The kind of moves that Monkey is calling for with this WE roster is very reminiscent of the tales you'll hear from teams talking about scrim demons in their league, where they just go for the most outrageous stuff. They'll go for plays that just on paper seem very, very inefficient. But if it works, you can say it's inefficient or whatnot, but they're the ones that come out the better for it. And until they work out, anyone's legend did have the advantage. Tarzan was farming up a storm. He essentially got Monkey to waste a lot of time on that bot lane gank. Didn't find anything. Hope paid a lot of respect and was very patient with allowing the wave to come on in. But then it's the invade. Once they think they push Karis out off of the Spirit Rush, they're like, all right, no way they're going to extend that play.
They spot Arha for a millisecond before he flashes over. Charm connects. And that's all the CC they need. Monkey picks up the kill, picks up the second one, and WE get something for themselves to continue propelling forward this game. Back to live, AL are on the dragon, and it looks like they're going to get it.
No way. Okay. Well, Monkey forced a flash, tried to go for the flip. It definitely would have been hella hype. Karis going to make Flandre's return to top lane a little painful with the Charm and the Orb of Deception combo. Cube will just push this wave on in, might be able to take a plate. At the very least, Crystalline Overgrowth.
Can we please take this last scrub, Monkey? Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, because I feel like Cube is going to have more opportunities like that. Speaking of opportunities,
Tarzan, it's time to get active on the map. He doesn't have Trinity Force yet, but he knows how proficient Monkey has been with his ganks, with his impact, and Flandra is going to be in a world of trouble. Hound's Pursuit after a flashing Rek'Sai means the very bitter end. Cube taking up the tower beautifully, and anyone's Legend top laner falls.
And Monkey picking up his third of the game. Should be a bunch of plates given over to the Scion as well, as we see the Nami joining up with Tarzan here. I'm wondering what their plan actually is by getting Kyle toward the top side, because we just saw a reset come through from the Cassiopeia. So I don't think they're going to be looking for invades or anything of that nature. It's just some basic defense, some warding. But it also feels like WE are starting to get a handle on getting this Naafiri ahead and just generally playing to the game plan we know they can play.
WE have another 3,000 gold advantage for the second time in this series. That's just bonkers to me. This team was 1-13 in series score in the regular season. And Gavin, when was the last time that WE had taken a game off of anyone's Legend in a best of 5?
It has been a very long time. In a best of 5, they've only ever done it once, Mark. So it's been a while. It's been further back than last year. I forget the exact date, but it has definitely been some time. And for them to not only take a game off of AL, which is their second ever that they've managed to do in a best of 5, but also them winning that game gets them up to 7 total wins in the playoffs, more than they got in all of regular season. They got 6 total wins in regular season spring split. So they have officially eclipsed themselves. All of the 2 months that they spent was one-upped in just 2 series. 2 series in 1 game.
Yeah. Monkey constantly hovering the top side of the map. The fact that we are seeing a lot more jungle proximity to Cube's lane from WE in recent memory goes to show how much faith, how much Cube has leveled up as a reliable part of the map for WE to feel confident about, and leaving About and Arha to their own devices. We're even seeing Kara shift on over to supplant even more pressure there. And Monkey is being given solo gold for first brick. Are you kidding me?
Hey, Cube, this is why we love you, man. Yeah, W top laner for that, as now Tremor Sense doesn't spot you if you're standing still. Are they actually going to be able to get something onto Flandra here? Oh, he waited for the Rek'Sai.
For his moment. Unstoppable Onslaught doesn't find the knockup though, and About might have overextended his welcome. Forced to flash over the wall. TP comes in, and that stops the play dead in its tracks at the cost of a TP from Shanks.
All right, it looked pretty cool, but the execution maybe leaving a little bit to be desired there. Flash off of the Ezreal, still has the arcane shift, so there is safety as About has to cancel his back. Almost gets found there by Hope, but should be safe. This could have impact in about a minute, though, Mark, as no flash onto About leaves him a prime target ahead of this dragon fight. And there is still a good amount of lockdown on the side of AL. I'm really looking at Flandra to get a key knockup. If he tags About, then I think the rest of AL should be able to respond off of that. Yeah. But it's just really keeping our eye on the Rek'Sai in these team fights, as you are objectively the tankiest member on your team. So how do you want to operate in the 5v5s is a big question. Do you want to look for flanks onto the Ezreal, or do you want to be the front line for your team to front to back?
Might be a fight for this Rift Herald first, though, ahead of the Dragon spawn in 30 seconds. Tarzan immediately subjugates Cube, gets super tanky. Monkey secures the Rift Herald, but the Tarzan open. Arha found a beautiful flank with the Pop Blossom! And anyone's Legend backline completely eviscerated and caught by surprise! How is this possible? WE are constantly finding ways to catch AL by surprise. Flandra interrupted with the Unstoppable Onslaught and the Decimating Smash, and even without a flash, Ezreal and WE will have enough pressure to force Tarzan away from this tier 1 turret.
He doesn't have flash, but he is playing hella flashy in that fight. WE win out, get the mid-tier 1 for their efforts, and everyone is respawning with a second Hextech map in this series. It means that off the redeploy, WE are going to get to this bot side and try and deny this Dragon Soul point from AL.
I didn't even see Arha in position over that wall until it was too late.
Neither. Yeah. We were basically all of AL right there. We weren't paying attention to the Nico. They weren't paying attention to the Nico. It really is just, you get to put yourselves in their shoes. Thank you, observers. So they see him with the tremor sense, but they don't care, I guess. And he gets a nasty flank here. And I'll take everything I said about Nico engages not being potent enough back for just this one play. That got the fight started for WE. It looked a little dicey afterward, but about landing crucial hits here, scores himself a triple kill. Dragon was picked up as we go back to live, and now Herald is barreling down on the tier 2 of AL.
Oh, the pillar doesn't interrupt the crash. It still goes
He mistimed
through.
it. You need to wait till it charges.
Crazy stuff that we are seeing in this LPL playoffs, and it just gets even more insane. Tarzan with the pillar will try and clip some of these WE members, but only really gets a chance to separate a clone from the pack, and that's not the ideal target. In the aftermath of that Rift Herald fight for WE, they push down the tier 1 in the mid lane. They have prio over the dragon. They deny that Drake stacking, and I think that was such a crucial fight. And once again, Quacks, I want to go back to the conversation that teams need to stop underestimating WE when it comes to hands checks, because first of all, that is what got BLG sent to the lower bracket. And anyone's legend had a powerful Drake stacking win condition if they just let the Rift Herald go, but they forced that fight when it was 30 seconds away from that third dragon spawn. Just say, yeah, they get Rift Herald, we get third dragon for free practically, but
Monkey.
now they find themselves behind by 4,000 gold. However, Monkey might be in a bad spot, flashes away from the bubble crucially. Kars now on the flank, but he's staring at 4 members here. Charm connects onto Tarzan, dishes in with the
WE are
Spirit
split.
Rush. Oh, Flandra looks for the flank onto a bout. Still no flash on the Ezreal. It's a great opportunity for Flandra to get his revenge. The flash looking for Monkey, but he repositions with the Hound's Pursuit, but stopped in his tracks by the pillar. And anyone's legend are ready to make their revenge last. Cube all alone and all isolated. He's a very tanky guy, but he's not going to be lasting any much longer. AL with a hell of a punch, swing right on back in this game.
They look for an overload on the top side, and it ends up working. Mark, they get a kill onto Monkey and crucially knock the Nefiri down a peg. That is the big reward for them, in my opinion. And at the start, I thought this was actually kind of cooked for them, because even though they have WE split, I think WE's decision to actually take this fight and move further up into the river was a big mistake, just because Flandra gets a crucial angle. Arha gets another really nice Pop Blossom. But now here is where I get to say I was kind of right about the Nico engage, in that AL just kind of walk it off. There's no reinforcements for the Nico engage, and Arha is kind of left all by his own devices. There were 2 split, and AL picked them apart one by one.
And that was a moment where WE got a little too ambitious for themselves. But I think when we look at this WE roster, they are still taking the benefit of the underdog buff and being the ones that are unexpected and always catching AL by surprise. I think it is very crucial that AL cut down the gold advantage that WE were rocking with and being able to hold their ground. We know that at their best, anyone's legend has been one of the best representatives the LPL has seen, at least on the international stage. We'll see if they can continue that prowess here. Cube forced to flash away from the knockup of Flandra. Good decimating smash onto Tarzan, but he subjugates him, so he's super tanky. The rest of AL, their posturing is forcing WE to respect the space within this jungle quadrant, and no further fight breaks out.
But they force them down enough in health that they kind of can keep control of mid lane. You can see now they're going to reset and move down toward the bot side. AL have to pick up that wave on top before they can do the exact same. So it's overall a good, beneficial fight coming out there from Team WE, just to vie for a little bit more space ahead of this objective. And again, AL are still on soul point if they get this this dragon. So WE have to really emphasize the importance of being there for this. But as I say that, Karst is onto the top side with no teleport. Meanwhile, Flandra also doesn't have that summoner spell, but it is starting to come off of cooldown very, very quickly. So if they can stall out, maybe a 4v5 angle is possible here for AL. They're on the top side.
About's flash is back up, which is very crucial for WE. Being picked off by Flandra was not ideal, and it gave a huge bounty of gold into Flandra's pockets, where now he should have a split push advantage in being able to start putting some pressure on the side lane. 2 items on the Rek'Sai, very potent threat that you have to constantly be worried about. But there's an opportunity for WE to secure their second dragon of the game with the majority of forces of AL on reset, having picked up, for the most part, some second items here and there. Hope finally picking up his second item in the Manamune, which has not been fully stacked up yet. WE, as long as they fight around about, he is the biggest gold difference maker that WE have on their side. We'll see if anyone's legend can continue slowing the game down and allow the scaling to come into effect for Shank's Cassiopeia.
We are starting to see the dividends of the scaling for both of these comps come through. Monkey, I think, has maintained that snowball advantage that was built up to throughout the early and mid game. So his relevancy on the Naafiri has not dropped off. But About, like you said, now having that flash, I think going on to his third item, this is really when Ezreal is going to start hurting. So I'm looking at him to be that secondary driver for WE in a lot of these future fights. But then on the other hand, like you said, Shanks really starting to build up, has the full stacks of the Roa. Seraph's is complete. He's very tanky on the Cassiopeia, so it's hard for WE to look for an overload onto him if ever he is attempted to get picked off on by a side lane. So it's going to come down to team fights, in my opinion, Mark, and we saw how good WE were with that in game number 1 and how they have been in all of playoffs. We're going to have to see them recreate that here.
Couple members from the Panda side are trying to poke their heads into the river and fight for vision control, but they are not successful with it. Flandra returning to the bot side to answer the push of Cube. Top laners have teleport available. Tarzan takes a chunk out of Monkey's health bar, sidesteps the bubble though, dodging out on what could have been a pick attempt from AL there in this jungle.
Didn't see
True
the
shot.
Nami, so got yeah. Hey,
Charm connects onto Tarzan. Do they want to send it? Teleports immediately coming in. Tarzan chunked almost to lethal. Flashes away in time before the Darkened Daggers bleed him out completely. Flandra immediately using the tunnel to get away from danger there. WE have successfully pushed AL's jungler out of the red quadrant. Is it enough time to start the Baron? They're going to chance it.
Yeah, but there are the Hex Gates available. Tarzan can get right back into the action immediately. And this is what we talked about. Tremor Sense means that there are no surprises so long as the Rek'Sai is around, so they're just going to go for him.
Wow, Flandra forced to flash away. The pillar doesn't come in time, or maybe Flandra just wasn't really taking that risk. Flandra now down to flash. Tarzan still in the area, ready to try and walk forward and secure much necessary vision for Monkey as he is forced over the wall. AL holding their ground at the very least in the second game.
They are. It's a powder keg just waiting to get hit here, Mark. I feel like there is a lot of tension riding on this Baron. And frankly, I thought burning the flash from Tarzan and then burning the crucial health bars of some of these AL members in that initial play onto the Trundle at the red buff was enough for them to just go on to the Nashor, because there's really no way for this Trundle with no flash to get over that Baron wall. So it's very hard to actually look for a 50-50 in that regard, but they decide not to chance it. They decide to fight another day. It's now 2 flashes burned on 2 separate members of AL, Flandra and Tarzan. So the frontliners have to be very careful how they position going into this next fight, whether that's around this Baron that is currently up or this dragon that's going to be spawning in a little less than a minute and a half.
WE have definitely made a name for themselves in this playoffs run with their relentless aggression and repeated attacks, but I appreciate the patience and slowing down the tempo of the game to allow About to get time to purchase his third item in this Endless Hunger. This item has been a staple in Ezreal builds everywhere, giving him more ability haste, tenacity, and Omnivamp once he starts stacking up a takedown in fights. Starts off with 5%, just baseline. Oh my god! That is unlucky for Shanks. I have no idea if Kars knew, but that is a crucial ultimate burned right before the 5th dragon of the game.
This kind of feels like fate, what's going on here right now, Mark. I mean, we saw Monkey almost get bubbled. He didn't even attempt to dodge that, really. It was blind luck, frankly, where he avoided that trap potentially set up by Kyle. And then right there, Shanks whiffs the ultimate. WE are unintentionally dodging AL skill shots without even trying, and now they're not going to be able to dodge much more. Dragon up in a little less than 10 seconds, and both teams are ready to fight.
Flandre's Tremor Sense trying to work overtime in detecting where everyone from WE is postured. Have to keep eyes on where Arha is. He's slinking into the mid lane. Should get spotted once he crosses into the jungle quadrant.
Oh, flash charm!
On the hope, he gets caught! That is big for WE, and Shanks has no way out off of the Pop Blossom. About picks up 2 in swift fashion. AL lose on their 2 backline carries, and that's going to be the 3rd dragon awarded to WE.
And for WE, I think it's time to divide and conquer. You have more than enough damage to go onto this dragon. Tarzan, though, trying to look for something. He knows WE are split.
Monkey is just going to probably dip away from this dragon. No, he doesn't. He says, give me that. And AL spin all this on the bot side. The rest of their team are starting up the Baron. This is insane.
A teleport is being channeled here. Flandre and Tarzan want to try and be the heroes, but it's so low at this point.
Does Monkey have another smite cast? He has to. 900 HP. No, he doesn't. WE are the most insane team we have seen from LPL in this playoffs run so far. And it seems like every play that they perform, no one else can do the same.
And Cube walks away, and you can tell Tarzan really wanted to get something done there. He goes toward the dragon, tries to steal it, isn't able to, runs toward the Baron, but it's already at 1/3 HP. And Hope just with a crucial misposition there. I mean, he gets flashed on, charmed, locked down, and then Shanks is split. He's got no petrifying gaze to disengage himself from that fight. WE, all they needed was a couple of milliseconds, and they make the most of it. Baron secured, Dragon Soul Point now in their clutches, and WE are looking to take us to 2-0 point.
5,000 gold ahead, dressed in purple, 3 Hextech dragons on their side. Tarzan steps up, tries to get some vision control and start fist fighting, but this is the comfort zone of WE. AL have to pay their respects. Charm connects onto Flandre, able to at least frontline that and deny that pick attempt onto Hope. But they are going to lose out on this turret thanks to the Baron buff, thanks to the push and siege, and WE are spiraling ahead further in gold.
And all of the efforts from WE to keep Monkey ahead, the scaling from about now laying these true shot barrages into AL has fully come through as Tarzan gets chunked to less than half. All the while, Monkey is sieging in the mid lane. They're dividing AL's attention, and AL, this is what we said, if they're not ahead in gold around the 20-minute mark, we're 10 minutes past that point, but look at how scatterbrained they are, look at how split they are, look at how desperate they are to try and make something happen, Mark.
Monkey's just splitting and taking more resources in the mid lane. They're confident in Cube to be able to disengage this. Great pillar, though. Cube tries to use the ult to the side and buy some time for the rest of WE to disengage. Monkey cannot commit to this play. The rest of AL now turn onto the dogs. He pops the call of the pack just to get some movement speed. Tarzan, does he have what it takes to find the pillar? It forces the flash on a Monkey. But the rest of WE now continuing the siege onto the bottom lane. They're pulling.
They're hurting them around.
They're just jerking them around. Anyone's legend now trying to find the flash play. Arha disengages it with the Pop Blossom. Kars is not able to get out alive, but About is going to try to cook here. Tarzan, it just charges forward, ready to chomp on down, and anyone's legend have taken out 2 carries, but they forgot about Monkey, who's ready to and tear them limb from limb. Tarzan might be the king of the jungle, but Monkey is a whole other beast.
And Monkey is by himself. He has 2 towers to take down. AL look for a desperation play, but it is not going to matter. 2-0 for the 1-13 team. Do you believe in miracles?
Hope comes back up from the fountain. Monkey has Cube and a teleporting chorus to help finish the job. WE are 2-0 up against anyone's legend. There is no other team like WE right now. And even before a series win is even guaranteed, this run from WE is going to be remembered for ages, Quacks.
It is. This is already going to generate so much buzz. They took BLG 3-1, and now they have the potential to one-up themselves by 3-0ing AL, a team that around this time was making buzz. We go back to MSI in 2025. This team was looked at as one of the best in the world. They want to get back to that international, and WE might not eliminate them as we still are in the upper bracket mark, but they would send them to the lower bracket where it is already shaping up to be a gauntlet.
Just think about the opponents that are ahead of WE if they push this to a series win on game 3. They've already sent the first seed to the lower bracket. It would be AL, the 4th seed, going to the lower bracket. After them, it's Top Esports in the upper finals, who, coming from the regular season, are technically the 3rd seed, but for a majority of the regular season, they were the 2nd seed. They were pushing BLG, and there was a lot of hype around that team with the run that they had towards the first half of the regular season and the form that they were able to clutch out against JDG to put themselves at best top 3 contention. And WE is just eclipsing all of that hype right now, just based off of the fact that this team was 1 game loss away from not even making it to playoffs at the courtesy of LNG.
I know, and really, the fact that LNG might be the team most close to beating WE out of BLG, AL, and LNG, only one of these teams might have taken WE 2-5. And if you were to, like, a couple of weeks ago, make it like a questionnaire, like one of those, like, who wants to be a millionaire questions, like, who do you think is most likely to take WE to 5? You definitely say it was LNG the least amount of times. Absolutely crazy stuff. They're scaling. Yeah. They're scaling.
This team is just getting better and better. And this was a game where, once again, WE were finding these advantageous skirmishes, but there was also some showing of restraint. And I know that Monkey is going to be another highlight talking point of this game, of this series, but I want to credit the rest of the supporting cast from WE, because we have talked about before in previous iterations of WE where if the solo lanes are not doing their job, Monkey can only do so much. And it was a common talking point here on LPL English last year when WE was making this run, that it was mostly just Monkey or Taeyun and Vampire just brute forcing their will upon the rest of the bracket and doing what they could to defy the odds before finally falling short to IG. And solo lane diff was a massive reason why, because Rookie and the Shy, back in their prime on IG in 2025, put a stop to that run. But Cube have Cars have stepped up so much. Cars showed some brief glimpses of being a much better laner earlier this year in Split 1 during the Perseverance group run, but Cube was someone that we had been waiting to really start showing any sense of reliability that started with the BLG series. It's continuing here, being not only putting the silent fries in the bag and being the front line that the team needs, but even on the Jace matchup when he is getting cooked on the side lanes after AL trying to rectify the odds that were put on Flandra's Vayne, it is just so surprising to see this WE team buy into the chaos and the madness that Monkey seems to spearhead for the rest of the squad.
Yeah, Monkey really, I think, just propels this team to go forward without fear. And another player that I want to shout out for this game was About. I think that even though it was a quieter early game for the Ezreal, that's exactly what you expect from Ezreal. He scales on up, he becomes a late game monster, and that's exactly what he did. He was 31%, almost a entire third of his team's damage mark. He was pumping out those numbers. He was positioning well in fights. There were a couple of hiccups with those flashes, but I do think from a general gameplay perspective, he had a lot of really nice moments. So again, we were kind of hyping up hope in this matchup for a player looking for a redemption arc and having really good form in their first match up against EDG. But so far, About has been really, in my opinion, fathering him and looking like the better AD carry in this best of 5.
About joining this roster, rookie of the split from Split 1. Paying investment, returning to that form here just in time for playoffs as well. Really putting in so much work on this Ezreal. And last shout out to Arha. I know
Everyone
you are
gets a
very
shout
skeptical on Nico and what she can do. Obviously, if you're not following up on the Pop Blossom Engage, she just does not bring enough burst damage to be a threat by herself. It is the angles and it is the creativity that you have to find. That fight on Rift Herald broke open the game for WE to cruise on ahead for a snowball. Even when they were slightly ahead by 3,000, it was still comebackable. It was still winnable for anyone's legend, but them disrespecting WE at that Rift Herald fight, trying to say, no, we can take them on this play, and just, I don't know if it was Tremor Sense just being ignored, but that play alone is what makes the game almost
It's what breaks it open
unlosable for WE.
It really does. Arha found so many critical timers and so many critical flanks against a comp that we said it was going to be hard to flank against with Rek'Sai in the game, but he managed to make it happen almost every single time. And I think switching over to the conversation about AL, not playing to their strengths that we know them for. We talk about the confluence of Tarzan and Kael linking up with one another to dictate early game tempo and get AL off to an early lead. I don't think I've seen these two on the same screen as one another in the jungle so far this series, Mark. They're like two characters in a show with multiple POVs who just never interact with one another. You like have them with their own character arcs, they establish who they are, and you get invested in them, but these two never actually have any scenes of dialogue with one another. They're just like ships in the night passing one another, and that is not the kind of synergy you want to see in playoffs, and especially now where you're down 0-2.
And now WE at match point. With one single game win, they push themselves to a guaranteed top 3 finish, something they have not seen since LPL 2021 summer playoffs when Shanks was on this roster, first making his name, by the way. And that puts them one series win away from making an appearance at an international for the first time since 2017. You can feel the hype, you can feel the momentum. Do you believe in WE? We'll find out on the other side of this break. Welcome back, y'all. We are getting ready for game number 3 between Anyone's Legend and WE. On paper, this was a battle between the 4th seed and the 8th seed. But this 8th seed had already done the most insane upset of the year by sending BLG, the number 1 seed, to the lower bracket. And there might have been some doubt that it was just a fluke, that BLG had an off day, but WE are now 1 game away from continuing that insanity and proving that this could just be WE making the run all the way.
Yup. I mean, someone was asking for like a DRX level run at home, and this is exactly what is going on here. I mean, this is potentially history in the making. WE, if they 3-0 this series and get themselves to 1 best of 5 away from an international for the first time in 9 years, have to keep reiterating that, people will be discussing that run long after the members of this squad have moved to other teams and done other things. This will transcend the day it happened, and it will be years in the future that this series and this run will be discussed. But they still have 1 more game to win, and then after that, 1 more series to play, so the run is not yet complete. But just the fact that it is possible, Mark, just the fact that a 1-13 team can take down a 12-2 team, and now AL potentially getting 3-0'd, the discussion is already circulating, and the hype is definitely there.
And I feel so many eyes are now peeled to the screens of, whether it's here, LPL English, whether it's on Nightmare stream, whether it's on Aragon stream, whether it's on Kitty stream. Hell, I hope some of the other creators around the world are tuning in somewhere. If they have a live feed of the official broadcast, I don't care. I want more people to see potentially one of the greatest stories of LPL in the making that is happening right here, right now. Now, Anyone's Legend have been in scenarios where backs against the wall, and they've been able to come from behind and clutch it out. We have not necessarily seen that, though, from this iteration of Anyone's Legend in 2026. That was something more familiar with 2025 Anyone's Legend, when they were at their height, not only in terms of domestic power within the LPL, but also internationally representing on the global stage. I need Anyone's Legend to really start respecting WE at all points of the game. The Pandas have to understand, if there is even a 1% chance of a possible play WE could make, believe that Monkey is going to call for it, because Monkey has been doing things that no other player would even sanely think of. But Monkey is willing to continue taking Anyone's Legend by surprise and throwing them the most insane curveballs. We'll see if Anyone's Legend can put a stop to this heroic momentum that WE have behind them as we head into draft for Game 3.
Yeah, the risk assessment skills that I think we've seen from Monkey going on in this series has been really a treat to see. I do think that the craziness that you're describing, Mark, definitely has been present, but it also just kind of feels like these plays he's going for feel more guaranteed because of the team that is behind him. I think the supporting cast of WE have done such a good job at allowing him to go for more bold engages, knowing that they will back him up at every single turn. As bans have already concluded, Rumble left open, and Flandra is going to immediately snag that one up. There are still counters available, the Galio notably one of them, as well as the Ornn, so you do have a number of options here if you are Q, but it seems like WE have something else in mind. They maybe want to just try and snag up a mid-jungle duo to get Monkey in a comfortable position right away.
And I like the priority for Annie, because you can now combo this with another carry jungler of Monkey's choosing. I will say that Nefiri, Olaf are gone. Wukong is gone. So when you're going down the list of other possible combinations with Annie...
Does he go Nidalee? I mean...
Maybe.
CC.
He showed a Nidalee. Gavin, what if he plays Kha'Zix?
Don't threaten me with a good time. If he plays Kha'Zix, I'll freak out. I'll turn into Kha'Zix.
If it's a Kha'Zix angle, it has to happen later on in the draft. So WE are going to start sculpting out the rest of their composition with some at least stable picks that can handle the side lanes. They pick up their answer for Cube in the top lane for this K'Sante Rumble matchup. Anyone's Legend have a chance now to separate what could have been a Monkey Lee Sin pairing with the Annie. Tarzan trying to pair that with something that could set this Lee Sin up. Twisted Fate still available.
Oof.
Immediately pivots to that. We'll see if Tarzan still wants to take the Lee Sin off the board.
And remember, this is a Twisted Fate that can be flexed. We saw Flandra play it in their last series. This is a dynamic pick for AL in the draft phase. So it could go either way. Mid lane is still open if this is top lane, and top lane is now actually, okay, so I lied. Rumble is locked in.
Hang on. I'm going to let you cook. I will encourage this cooking if they send Rumble support. Just to put it out there. I don't think it's going to be the case, but I don't want you to fall on your sword just yet, you know. I saw that you got really excited.
Equalizer does clear waves. I don't know. I think I just am missing the Rumble here. Honestly, I'm a little too excited. WE being up 2-0 has got me missing things that are right in front of me. But I do also think that returning to global pressure is kind of what AL are doing to return to the success we saw from them in their most recent series regardless. They had the Rise, they had the Twisted Fate, they had a bunch of these global tools, the Shen as well, to be able to get Flandra more involved, to just have that pressure that they could exert onto the map. And so I think they're returning to that a little bit with this draft and with this Twisted Fate lock-in. Bard being picked up here, Arha, not only are they denying it from Kael, who is a very good Bard in his own right, but also they are setting up for Monkey to have another carry performance and for Arha to just kind of follow him around. And that leads me to question what weak side AD carry we might be giving over to Hope. Jhin is notably still up, so I wonder if that priority is kind of there for Team WE. And if they don't go Jhin, what else are they thinking of? Varus could also be something, but I feel like whenever Twisted Fate is locked in, you always have to be very cautious of your roams, just knowing that an ultimate could go down to a side lane and punish you for leaving.
I like the Caitlyn call out from Anyone's Legend. Maybe not necessarily an AD carry you want a weak side, but if you give her the advantage, she can hold her own and she'll have the push advantage that does give Bard the freedom to start looking for those side lane plays in the first place. And also, Caitlyn Bard is such a powerful laning combo that Anyone's Legend, who are notably kind of struggling with Hope and Kael in the laning phase, trying to deny some of those options away from him. There's the Jhin that you highlighted. Now WE. Oh, okay.
Like
well, Sivir.
Yeah.
Yep. Sivir, weak side king when it comes to AD carry marksman. You can just insta-clear the wave, you leave her to her own devices, and you'll have guaranteed wave clear now on a side where if it was just Annie, she's not going to be able to clear waves just as fast. Oh, boy. What?
Monkey is last pick. Anytime Monkey is last pick, something crazy ends up happening. So whatever Monkey goes for here, I really hope this suspension, or this suspense that we're building up, pays off into something crazy. Monkey last pick is always a treat. Kai'Sa gonna be the lock-in here for AL, so it seems like they are more into, let's go for engages, let's go for fights, let's start up these skirmishes. Nautilus going to be a pairing that facilitates that as well. But again, this is Sivir. You've got the spell shield, but it seems like AL are just overloading on CC because you can't spell shield all of it. Galio instead gonna be the last lock-in. So is it Galio's support for Kael?
It could also be Rumble support, but it
could be.
We'll see what it ends up being. WE, when I'm looking at Monkey's champion pool. Oh, okay. Well, I think the Galio coming in probably deflected any of the spiciness coming out from Monkey. I was looking not only at Kha'Zix, I was looking at Viego, which is a longtime Monkey special. Viego is not terrible into what they were showing up until the Galio showed up. Once the Galio arrives, suddenly you are no longer interested in having a champion that's fully dependent on resets and not getting CC chained. And the flexibility from anyone's legend does show itself in full force. We're getting Rumble support for Kyle to try and combat some of the push and have some of the double range advantage that they need.
We were like half joking, by the way, calling out the Rumble support. So to see it actually lock in, dude, I can't stop laughing. Oh my lord. Yeah, AL now on series point, pulling out the dark technology, full engage, global pressure with the solo lanes, and looking to play the map exactly like how they did in their most recent series. And they have to play like how they did in their last best of 5 in order to come back into this match against WE. And WE, all they need is one more game mark to make the miracle run continue, to take that next step in the dance toward the finals against Top Esports and potentially beyond. A lot riding on this match, and for AL, I feel losing here would be a very big disappointment given how we started in this tournament.
Here in Game 3, the cheers for WE still ring the loudest. Now up 2-0 against anyone's legend. And with such a crazy swap of champions around Summoner's Rift here, last time that we have seen Rumble support in the LPL was from Fun Plus Phoenix's Life against BLG in 2024.
A lot more recent.
This champion... Yeah, we've definitely seen Rumble support around the world more recently. I know he was the last one to play it over on Sentinels in the LCS. Idea is that you max E first because you get more ticks of MR percentage shred per point. So that will help benefit a majority of this composition, because even with Kai'Sa and your solo lanes, these are all magic damage heavy. So this allows you to kind of bypass the fact that there is more of a traditional frontline setup from WE with the Cassante and the more standard frontline bruiser in this Xin Zhao from Monkey.
Yeah, there is a good amount of AP coming out from AL, but you see that D-Blade is also being built by Flandre, so he'll probably be going the AD Twisted Fate route, which
fair,
I think is going to be very punishing if it ends up getting ahead. You look at WE's comp, and most of these guys, specifically this Annie, are immobile. So if ever he gets push in the lane and can manage an ultimate down toward mid, I think the lockdown of Twisted Fate plus Galio probably just means that regardless of the damage profile that you have, you're going to be under CC for so long that you're probably just dead. So I think that is something to definitely look out for. Karis is very vulnerable on this pick. It's not the best matchup for Annie, and you can be visited by multiple different members of AL. But specifically, I am looking at jungle to really get on the map. I feel Tarzan has not been having a series that we can classify as good. It feels like Monkey has been doing so much better.
Oh, dear
Double
Lord.
summoners already burned.
At least Flandre maintains the health advantage, but that should signal to Monkey or anyone else on the map to go top lane soon. Meanwhile, Shanks tags Karis with the taunt. Resonating strike, not enough damage to finish off Karis, but it does burn his flash. And that can set up for a repeat visit as Kyle trying to match the roam from Arha. Monkey being able to at least take a drive-by in the mid lane, pick up a CS here or two, and just say, all right, well, Karis, you are safe. You're not going to get dove under this tower.
That 15 gold is just absolutely crazy, man. I mean, from the one minion that he's able to pick up from the mid wave, said might as well. Gets a little snack, but both junglers starting on the Raptors means that they will have some fairly extended sequences. Kyle.
Summoner heal burned by both supports just for the movement speed and to get their 80 carries in or out of position. Tarzan, however, hunting. Oh. I guess he was looking for Arha's Bard instead. That resonating strike or a sonic wave.
Tarzan wants
very
this.
wide. About below 50% HP, has barrier and flash. Hope is low on HP as well. They have to be careful with the timing of this. Teleport coming in immediately from Cube's Cassante. That sacrificial summoner spell gives breath and space to about an Arha to survive from this dive.
All right, so it prevents the dive. Good reaction there from Cube. He pushed in the lane. So will, at the very least, provide a little bit of a buffer for him to not miss as much experience and as much CS. But still, Flandre's going to be able to get this wave under the tower. He is going to stay, probably to pick up a plate. Does Monkey try and interrupt him, though? He would be doing this 1v1.
I'm looking at Monkey staying in Fog of War. Flandre has no idea.
There's
there
no
are no
way.
summer spells on this Twisted Fate. He procs the gold card. Monkey will slow him down with the Audacious Charge. Cube flashes to get into range. First blood to Monkey's Xin Zhao.
And you can see the smile on Monkey's face. That was a beautiful usage of the Fog of War, getting around there without Flandre noticing. And First Blood goes over to the jungler of Team WE. Has he gotten First Blood in all 3 games so far, by the way, Mark? I think he has.
Trying to double check in my mind, but so much craziness has happened in this series, I can't tell you or confirm that for you. But it would not surprise me. Monkey has been the leading pillar for WE's craziness to begin with, and he continues catching anyone's legend off guard. And we highlighted it in the pre-show. We highlighted it in the teaser up for the 3rd draft. If WE has a 1% chance of pulling it off, if there is even a sliver of a chance that this play could happen, anyone's legend just need to respect it. And Flandre gets punished for it.
Every possibility turns into an opportunity, and WE take that quite literally. Now, Monkey in the mid lane.
He dashes to the minions, but doesn't hit. The wind becomes lightning. Flash taunt setting up on Dakaris. Taurus is here. Tarzan wants to be able to turn it around, but doesn't get in range of Chorus as Monkey with a well-timed Crescent Guard punts them away. Shanks now on the retreat.
Shanks is waiting.
On this Galio. Chorus has the movement speed. Cube can look for the collapse, and there's no other way out. Instead, just back into the arms of Chorus, and Monkey is just so relieved to see that WE's momentum continuing in their favor.
And you can see he wants to try and look for an invade onto the red, but Kaela's in the area. Hope gets stunned up, will get chunked out, but WE's bot lane not going to act on that CC landing onto the Kai'Sa. Really insane disengage there from both Monkey and Cube, by the way. He went forward and actually canceled the Destiny. Flandre was looking to get into mid lane, use that global ultimate to apply pressure onto the matchup, like we said we expected him to do. And that gets completely thwarted, and then Monkey peels for his mid laner, manages to save Karis long enough, and they turn the play on its head. Oh, that's tilting. And then the knock-up here as well to stop Tarzan's advance. Shanks is channeling the ultimate. He can't go forward. And then Cassante closes in, so Shanks is like, all right, I'm dead either way. I have to go forward, and gifts his counterpart a kill.
Anyone's legend can try and take a step back, take a deep breath, and recognize that while WE once again have the momentum on their side in this 3rd game, with match point in their favor, it is still not over yet. But AL need to show the discipline, they need to show the restraint and wait for their time, and the fact that WE have been able to find counter response after counter response can be so frustrating to many teams. But we know that the best that AL has shown has been able to come back from these moments. Now, WE are picking up the grubs on the top side of the map. There's still a dragon to take, but Tarzan has not made any advancements just yet, as Monkey leaves one grub alive so that he can answer to the bottom side objective as well.
I like this a lot. I mean, Kyle's got a lot of deep vision placed, but I don't think AL can properly respond to this. WE have disengage tools and also know that AL are likely waiting in the bot side river, so they're not going to push up too lackadaisically.
Bounce a little far, but he pops the Sivir
Teleport.
ultimate ability. Oh my goodness, Cube is coming in for a TP flank. He has the first move over Twisted Fate because his Destiny is not up yet for another 4 seconds. That gets the flash out of Kael as well as the Summoner's Heal spell. WE are now up on Summoners. Can they use it to translate into a Dragon immediate advantage?
Insane timer there from WE. They probably calculated the ultimate pixel perfectly, but now ult being channeled here. I don't know if they can act on it, though. AL. Destiny not going to be used there for Flandra on the teleport. They're just going to get vision. And yeah, good timing there from Team WE. Completely thwarts the play that AL were looking to make on the bot side river and leaves this dragon unbesmirched. Meanwhile, WE got those 2 grubs on the top side. So these little granular advantages coming through in the objective department, which is so far historically in this series, something they have not been super great on. AL usually get the first couple of neutrals and then WE win out on the fights to go from there. But WE are actually the ones to pick up the grubs. And so far, like I said, Dragon not taken yet. So that one is up for grabs.
And I can't help but feel a small sense of desperation already leaking out of some of these plays and decisions that AL are making. There is a clear teleport advantage from Flandra, not in the teleport, but in the Destiny, once Cube was forced to come back to the top side of the map. But a hasty use of it, trying to catch out a straggler, but the rest of WE were all grouped up in numbers. There was no play to be had there, and the small window that could have been expended by the Pandas to find a way back into the game off of that, well, they're going to have to wait for that Destiny to come back off cooldown instead. WE taking their time with that dragon, and neither team has made any movements towards it in the past couple of minutes.
No, they haven't, but WE getting the grubs, I feel is more of a denial, to be honest with you, because AL have so much side lane pressure with the Galio and the Twisted Fate. The global ultimates just mean that you have so much side lane threat and can get a lot of plates from having a style like that. So being able to deny that objective away, I think, gives WE more time to group up in 5v5. As speaking of grouping up, AL are looking to find a skirmish here, but Kael is caught. No flash.
He has no sums from the prior fight. Tarzan tries to break it open and buy time for his support to get back into position. Monkey with the Crescent Guard. Isn't enough damage. No, Tarzan finds the kick onto Monkey, saves his support's life. Tarzan tries to rise to the occasion, and even the odds. Tarzan flashing forward, finds a bout with the Resonating Strike. This is the prime Tarzan we were waiting to see all series long, and AL roared to life here in Game 3.
All right, AL have got some fight in them still. Tarzan with a beautiful Dragon's Rage kick manages to save Kael and then gets so much space for the rest of his teammates to play with, as we do get a replay here. Dragon as well, once we go back to life, should be given over to anyone's legend, as, yeah, I was thinking Monkey split from the fight, but he is still healthy, so he should be able to one-shot Kael. But the kick plus the Q buys space. Hope is able to advance, and all of Team WE unfortunately get taken down. Now Monkey back to live is going on to Kael, and I don't think he's going to have a Lee Sin to save him this time.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. Monkey will do. He finds Kael again before his flash comes back up, and WE are no strangers to being absolutely persistent on Summoner's Rift.
And they're on the top side. They should be able to get the last grub, I think, just given that they're in the area. And it's a convenient pickup, you know? So they'll be able to finish off that camp. Meanwhile, though, you can see that Tarzan is maybe looking to overplay on a side lane here onto a bout.
No flash on this Sivir.
Oh, missed
Wait for the spell shield, but the Resonating Strike does not connect. Arhan now on the flank. Kars flash forward, finds Hope. And now Tarzan could be next. There's no flash on this Lee Sin. Tempered Fate is going to stall some time. Kick away from Kars, deny some damage from the Annie, but he forgot about a bout. And oh boy, this Sivir's starting to roll away with some free gold in her pockets as well, which is not the case that you want to have happen if you are AL.
Good sidestepping there from About as well to dodge the Q. I think that if that lands as... Hang on, going back to live, Monkey might be in some trouble.
Gold card onto the Xin Zhao. No Crescent Guard being used early enough.
Oh.
No way. No way he gets out alive.
Slow.
Okay. Well, AL finally get a punish onto Monkey for a second time around, but it does come at the cost of Flandra coming down to the mid lane. Cube will be able to collect some gold in these plates on the top side.
And we now see a bit of a jumble on the lane assignments, Mark. We see that the mid laners are down in bot lane. Hope has been roamed up toward this top side to pick up some gold as the Kai'Sa. And we kind of alluded to the lane swaps being a primary way that AL can function through with their macro once you coast around that mid game. And I feel like we have been seeing a lack of that in this series. I think it's one of the reasons why WE have been so successful in the best of 5 thus far, is because they have kind of locked AL into this group as 5, fight as 5 style that WE are just so amazingly good at, right? We saw this against BLG, and it was one of the primary ways they managed to win that series. So now that AL have been given some breathing room here in Game 3, they're making the most of it, switching up the lane assignments and trying to maximize gold for their carries.
Oh boy. Arha playing with fire there in his own jungle quadrant. Unbeknownst to him, Tarzan was lurking around the corner.
I like this.
Using the power of Tarzan's Lee Sin, now somewhat accelerated. Sundered Sky already complete, and a Phage component working towards that Black Cleaver means that Tarzan should feel confident in trying to go for these invades, trying to deny resources from Monkey. This is the first time we've seen in this series where Tarzan is starting to get the gold advantage over Monkey in the matchup.
And all of AL are on this top side, even though they don't get the invade play that they were maybe trying to spring a trap on with WE. They are going to be on this river. Herald should belong to them. A good wave clear here from Kai. Hey, you know, we were joking about the Rumble support and being able to, like, wave clear with your ultimate, but it's not a joke anymore. Who's laughing now? Manages to deny probably a plate from Team WE, but they're just going to shift on toward this bot side. But I think no matter how much setup Team WE establish on this part of the map ahead of the Dragon, AL now having the Herald means that they can just charge this in mid or charge this elsewhere and pull attention to that lane to try and, you know, mitigate the amount of gold you can get from a Herald charge on these plates.
And while it might have looked silly for Shanks to use his TP for that Rift Herald when it already seemed like AL had numbers for it, they are starting to pay respect over to WE in the fact that if there's a small chance that they're going to contest us at this fight, let's just preemptively have all of our numbers here so that we do not give a window to WE back in this game. And with it, they are paid for a solid 1.5 thousand gold advantage here at the 16-minute mark. I'm going to be honest, Gavin, I did not see who secured first brick. Was it AL?
AL, yeah. Barely getting it, like 1 second difference. But WE also got a plate in mid, so, you know, balances it out a little bit from the bonus gold you get with first tower. Hope is pushed up quite far here.
There's a hero's entrance from Shanks, but it's not going to happen in time. My goodness, that Kai'Sa got popped.
That's really bad for AL because they were setting up for maybe trying to contest this Dragon, but now with no AD carry and frankly the rest of AL kind of scattered around the map, not only are they going to surrender that Dragon, give it over to Team WE, but also this mid lane turret is going to fall as well, so a bunch of gold being given over to them, just off of a really uncharacteristic, I think, mistake from the AL AD carry, pushing up way too far with no vision of his counterparts.
No real backup there. I know we mentioned that Shanks could have poured it in with the hero's entrance, but he just got destroyed. There was way too much burst. Sonic Wave from Tarzan gets him into the pit. He pops the Rift Herald. He's ready to ride this one out for combat.
Oh my god, Monkey got it.
And he secures the Dragon. Rift Herald still at the ready if they want to take it for a ride. Flandra with the gold card, looks for Cube. He absorbs it. Tarzan in trouble. Oh, it's the all-out onto Flandra, and the Twisted Fate now has to run and scurry away. Cars trying to fight on back with the rest of his team, but Monkey has been felled here. Flash from Cars, barely misses out on Hope. Really clutch movement for the AD carry if anyone's legend to dodge out on danger, but Kyle could be the next on the chopping block here. WE running this Rumble down. One more stun guarantees it for WE.
Good target selection there from Karis. Manages to land his abilities, finds his mark, and now gets a couple of kills for his effort. Monkey goes down, but he does secure the Dragon for his team. So AL not going to be able to really rely on that Dragon stacking in order to be a feasible win con just yet, as I do want to get a replay. This felt like a very split team fight for both teams. We had a lot of attention being paid toward the back lines, and it just kind of felt like the frontliners weren't necessarily where they needed to be. And yeah, it was just kind of all over the place, but Now we see kind of Karis proto belt flash in, finds an angle, gets a kill, and then they're just able to run down a second one for the Annie. So that one-shot burst potential that we saw put onto Hope for his overextension in the mid lane going to be made all the more worse with more gold being funneled into the mid laner of WE.
And we have to mention that Monkey is not playing one of his signature carry champions. He is playing the meta in the Xin Zhao pick. Sundered Sky and Black Cleaver as well, so no funny AP builds either for the increased healing. He is being a role player this time around. Twisted Fate with the Destiny. Equalizer slows him down. Deals some damage onto Arha's Bard. Tarzan is fishing for a follow-up. Not going to continue the chase. They're going to use this pressure maybe to shift on over to the mid lane, but WE swing right on back. They're looking for Tarzan with the Tempered Fate. Dodges out on it. Cube in a 1v2. Could be in trouble. Looks for Hope. Clips him with the Q3. There's no flash on this Kaisa, but Cube has to back off for now. Monkey tries to get into the fray. Cube is back in it with the Blast Cone. This Monkey is ready to rock and roll. Hope gets knocked up, but the hero's entrance forces Monkey to back off. Tarzan wants to be able to find some kills here. Kael slimps away, and the rest of WE now on the back foot. One-for-one trade so far. Cube goes down, but so does Kael and Hope. Shank's forced to retreat. A flash from Arha tags Flandra for the Cosmic Binding Slow. Tarzan under fire with the Ricochet Blades. He goes in, tries to make
my god!
But WE never say die, and they always believe in the best of themselves. Anyone's legend lose out on the gold lead, and WE have the momentum right on back, and they're going to turn into a Baron.
WE are doing it, Mark! They're looking for the 3-0. They get a crucial fight, and now they're onto the Nashor. It looked like it was going to be in AL's ballpark to complete the play, to get a fight that would cement themselves as the team ahead going into the late game. But WE find the turnaround. Monkey looks for the re-engage, and Baron will be secured.
Kyle shows up, but there's no smite on him. Baron secured for WE off spawn. What is this team? Where did they come from?
What is this team fight, by the way? I was like really confused at how WE were approaching this at the start. So Arha gets tagged. Monkey's completely split. I thought AL were going to engage onto him. Then Monkey flashes on to Hope, gets the Q3 of the Xin Zhao, gets the knockup, but then has to exfiltrate the fight. Everyone is completely split. Cube somehow lives. Timber acts as a 6-man and finishes off a kill here, and then suddenly off the bouncing boomerang damage, I think it was, they find the re-engage. Monkey gets the confidence to go back in, and going back to live, you can see the siege is coming through, and WE are trying to make the most of this Baron buff.
WE really representing the spirit of LPL in prior seasons, where they thrive in the chaos and they are bending teams to their will, and anytime they try and dance to the beat of this insanity, they just force themselves into many errors. And WE are always finding themselves one step ahead. It is just incredible to see a team going from 8th seed in the regular season, now in a spot where we're not only seeing the best that they have ever shown, we don't even know if this is their peak yet.
We don't. They could go so much higher, but first, they have AL to deal with, and they are looking to try and complete the cleanest sweep. People joking in the chat about a WE 3-0. Well, you're not laughing now. That is closer to reality than you think.
Flandra forced to flash off of the threat of a Karis engage just from the Rocket Bell cast. Bottom inhibitor sieged. WE now can shift to the mid lane where Cube is already taking apart Shanks' health bar and making him ready for a collapse. Arha tagged by the Sonic Wave. Tarzan tries to fish for any summoner spells to be baited out or any reactive moves from the WE members, but they hold their ground, and they are the ones now playing a calmer game and forcing anyone's legend to scramble and panic.
They get a lot of gold from that Baron buff. You can see AL now, the desperation is starting to creep in here. Dragon has spawned. WE take a really awkward reset timer. They're going to allow anyone's legend, I think, into this river, but realistically, how long can they hold it? We've seen them in this position before. WE are not afraid, even when they don't have vision.
Shanks finds the engage onto Monkey, but he pops the crescent guard. No one can follow up on the engage from Shanks. It's now an immediate 5-on-4 advantage. Tarzan and the rest of anyone's legend have to scram. This dragon belongs to WE. They're not closer to Soul Point anytime soon. Cars with the TP flank looks for hope. Immediately collapsed on. Big punish by the Pandas, but can they get the support out and away from the rest of WE's grasp? 4-on-4, W flash from Monkey, looks to tag Kyle, the rest follow up through the magical journey, and Kyle might just have to be the sacrificial lamb. Good kick from Tarzan, punts them away.
No way. Can they do it?
WE will be slowed down for now. They cannot look for the end, but you can just feel anyone's legend slipping away from this series.
They're not going to look for any further aggression like you said, but they're going to get the dragon. They're going to deny every possible win condition, every possible play, every possible attempt by AL to come back in this game, to salvage this series. WE are shutting it all down, Mark.
Last year, WE had one of the greatest upsets of 2025 season. When they were in the lower bracket, they faced off against Top Esports, the reigning champions in the LPL from Split 1, and they knocked them out of playoffs, denied them an opportunity to represent LPL not only, again, as a reigning champion, but also on the international stage. What an incredible story for WE to potentially top that playoffs finish by finishing top 3 with a game win here. The best since 2021 summer, where Shanks was first making his name as his debut year in LPL. It is just crazy to think that this is the roster that comes together and starts taking the world by storm after having a 1-13 series record during the regular season.
And we focused so much on this team as a collective force, and we've talked a lot about the players individually and their journeys to get here. WE are looking for a siege, but I really do think Arha has to be looked at, as there is no time to explain the story. AL are looking for a flank, potentially one last hurrah, as Tarzan is trying to get an angle. Maybe they found Cube, but he is so damn tanky on the Cassante.
Tarzan, does he chance it over the wall? Monkey immediately dashes onto the Lee Sin, gets the knock-up, and a lot of damage pumped out, forcing Tarzan to dash back to safety. Rest of WE continue the siege. They should be able to break open the inhibitor tower through the top lane. Flandra has retreated from his siege push, making sure that he is able to assist. Destiny was popped. Flandra looking for a flank onto Monkey, but he pops the Crescent Guard. They go onto Shanks first. He flashes
found
away
Flandra!
with belts, but Flandra is popped.
They found Hope!
Temper Fate onto 2. Cars is about to land. The sickest stun ever. Tarzan tries to go in and save his AD carry from certain death.
They're gonna do it!
And Hope does it! WE, their best playoffs finish in 5 years, and their journey is far from over! Could you believe it that WE are going to upper finals?
Doubters be damned! Haters be halted! WE from 1-13 now be one series away from MSI, and it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish, but this story is not over. They've got a date with Top Esports.
This is the LPL. Oh my God. This is the greatest story in LPL. I would have to go back and comb through, and I know I might be presumptuous in saying that because I have not followed the LPL for too long. There's definitely a gap in some years here, but I would be pressed to believe that there is no other team that is going to be making waves like this around the world now after this. First, it's an upset over BLG. But that could be just one series. And
yeah,
we
maybe
could
you're a
think
one-hit
that,
wonder.
Yep, one-hit wonder, right? But WE have now replicated that success into Anyone's Legend, a 3-0 sweep. Mind you, almost every other best of 5 that Anyone's Legend has played against WE in the past 2 years, it has been 3-0s from Anyone's Legend. WE just said LNG was harder than you guys.
That's aura. If that isn't aura right there, if that isn't disrespect right there, I don't know what else is. A statement series from Team WE to convince everyone that this is the new level and you better get used to it. And Mark, as a team, this is such a crazy story, but look at the pieces of this squad individually, every single one of them with their own little mini redemption arc in my mind. But one player that I think maybe doesn't fit under the redemption arc banner, but should totally be talked about is Arha. This is a guy who in split number 1 was on Weibo. They made a deep run in playoffs, and then going into split 2 was put onto WE, and with the rough start they had, a lot of people, you know, kind of, I think, put him in the back of their minds as a player who was on Weibo, but with Weibo having a decent form of success at the time in split 2 regular season, was just kind of left there onto Team WE. Had some good performances, but overall, not a ton of special stuff coming out from him, at least in my mind. And then now, Weibo eliminated, not even in the playoffs. Arha, the only member of WBG 2026 to even get into the top 8. Now, he has the chance, one series away, to make an international.
The first time for Monkey. The first time for WE as an organization since 2017 at the World Championship. Everyone is going to be tuning in to the upper finals where WE will be facing off against top esports. And I'm just going to put it out there, Quacks. Out of the 3 teams that WE has faced in the upper bracket so far, or not the 3 teams, the 2 teams that they have faced in the upper bracket, 3 teams if you count LNG, their finishes have been getting more dominant and more convincing with every series win. And now, if you are top esports, I'm
scared. Like, I'm confused. Like, what is going on?
In the most polite way of saying this without Alk and the rest of the admin team getting mad at me, my pants would be turning to brown, like right now. It just straight up.
Honestly, I think it apt to fly the graphic of last series endings in games 3 and 4, just to show how close those matches were and how much of a knife's edge WE had to play with against BLG to get those victories. You can say that they won the series, you can call it an upset, but no matter what you talk about, you can't deny those games to end the series and give WE their last 2 wins to advance into this matchup were extremely close and could have gone the way of BLG and very well could have turned the entire series around had just a little bit more gone right for BLG. It was a nail biter, and after this point, like you said, proving that you're more than one-hit wonders, this was not a close series. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter, and Team WE annihilated AL in the most convincing way and in the most convincing games they have had, frankly, all year, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is a generational run that WE is making right now, and if we're gonna stop the WE glaze for a moment, we can shift the conversation over to Anyone's Legend briefly and just touch upon some of the things that were good takeaways, but I think I'm trying to appropriately give some criticism over to Anyone's Legend without shoring up the praise that needs to be given over to WE.
For sure.
And
I I think, from my exquisite, very in-depth analysis, that one of the things I noticed AL weren't able to do in their series against WE that they were able to in their first best of 5 was the amount of pressure played on as a team. I felt like this was something we saw with picks like the Shen, with picks like the Twisted Fate. This Twisted Fate was like unrecognizable from Flanger compared to the one that he pulled out in the last series. The amount of pressure he was able to put on against their round 1 opponents compared to now, I felt was so different. And I think that AL, frankly, just weren't as solid of a team, in my opinion. They didn't play the 5v5s as well. They didn't play the skirmishes as good. Tarzan's leadership plays in the early game are a staple and a universal game plan that AL have used ever since the beginning of 2025, since he joined this team and joined this organization. And we saw absolutely none of that. It felt like everything that AL have stuck with did not come through to the degree that was needed in order to win this series. We saw hints of it, but it just, at the end of the day, they were too few and far between.
This early response from anyone's legend seemed calculated, and it gave the Pandas fan in me a inkling of hope that AL were starting to break down the gameplay of WE and understanding where they're trying to strike. And it's not like this was the first time we saw that flash of brilliance from them. There was the ward that caught Monkey and Cars on the top side looking for that trap. But what always happened after these flashes of brilliance is that WE swung onto the map right away and made a beeline for a straggler on anyone's legend side. And I don't know if AL are just thinking, okay, after that win from us, WE are going to take a breather. They're going to take a step back and try and chill out because they don't want to give any gold away. And WE's response is the complete opposite. They just double down. But the manner they're doing it just seems so fearless that if any other team tries to do the same thing, it's easy to ridicule them when it fails. But WE have yet to fail enough times that it outweighs all of the successes that they are finding with these risks, with these plays that they're finding. And in a way that NIP was capturing our hearts during the regular season with some of their relentless, persistent decision-making, WE is now pulling similar maneuvers off, but to a whole other degree. And I am now insanely excited for this team. They still need to win one more series to guarantee themselves a spot at MSI, but this form that they are showing has me very optimistic for their chances now that they have done it twice in a row, and they have done it against teams that at least have been some of the pinnacle clubs here in LPL over its domestic history.
Really, this has the chance to be one of, you were saying that there are gaps in the memory of LPL, as this is a league that has had a very long tenured history, has been around for an extremely large amount of time relative to league's existence. And I would agree with you that we would have to look back at the stories of the LPL to comparatively see where this one ranks. But the fact that we are in a world where a 1-13 team, you can see just over this way, you can see their score, 1-13 has the chance and is one best of 5, 3 wins away from getting into a grand final. That has to be high up there if that does happen. And for top esports, they are definitely going to be a strong opponent. We are highlighting Monkey. We are highlighting About, I think, as the players that really stepped up in this series. Frankly, everyone from Team WE stepped up in this series. But if you want to talk about big threats in the jungle and in the AD carry role, you need not look any further than Jackie Love and TN. This split performing very well and getting a lot of honors from us broadcast talent. So it is an apt final boss for WE. But my only advice to Top Esports, don't make the same mistake as BLG and AL. Do not underestimate WE, as I feel like that is a pitfall they both fell into, and they got punished for it.
I am doing some deep digging into the history of WE as an org, because obviously we were able to pull up 2021 summer as their best finish since that period of time. That was the last time they had ever made third, which is their highest placing in the past few years up until now that it is tied. I don't see a second place finish in terms of grand finals appearances until spring 2017, and it was just a straight up win. It was an LPL title.
To give you all, I'll make them all feel old about how long that was. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm 22. I was in 7th grade the last time I was in middle school the last time this team made an international, okay? It's been almost a decade. So just to put that into perspective, I don't even really remember when they made an international, okay? I like memories from 7th grade, I either have locked in a memory vault or I just straight up don't remember them.
Yeah. Well, unless Leaguepedia is wrong, and I have made sure to read everything correctly here at 5:50 a.m. over here in Utah, 2017 spring is the one and only time WE has won an LPL title in its history as an organization.
They're one of the oldest. They've been around since the beginning, keep in mind.
Yeah. I'm doing one more quick check, looking at 2013. They were third. All the other first place finishes are other tournaments like Nest, IPL, TGA Grand Prix. So I don't even know if this is official LPL stuff. Official LPL stuff doesn't come in until 2013. And yeah. Let's see. Before 2017, they had 4th place finish in 2016 summer, 3rd place finish in 2016 spring. Yeah. No other notable finishes. This is crazy, guys. Just to think of the history that could be made with this roster, and we saw glimpses of it with Monkey and Taeyun and Vampire as the engine last year in Split 2 playoffs, and it fell short in the lower bracket to IG, short of a top 3 finish, which could have tied that 2021 summer placing, but they've officially tied it now, and they are still in the upper bracket. So even if something happens in the matchup against Top Esports, they still have a chance in the lower bracket to make it to grand finals, to make it their best placing, or to continue topping this best finish in playoffs since that time period long ago. But I'm just now seeing a timeline. I'm like Doctor Strange. I am seeing all the parallels in the multiverse. Yes. We can see a world where WE continues this momentum and adds their second ever title to their trophy case.
Second ever.
For the first time since 2017 spring. Just imagine that. Just imagine all of the milestones that this org could rack up in one single playoffs run.
It would be absolutely generational. It would be insane to see that happen. Some would say it would make them pretty world elite, if you will. They're not called that anymore. Anyway,
nope.
But dead naming them for fun. But it was absolutely an insane series from WE.
Oh my! When are we getting our player of the game? When are we getting our player of the series? That's the real question. Well, I imagine that player of the series is probably going to be Monkey. I would be hard pressed to give it to anyone else, question mark, because Monkey is the driving force of a lot of these advantages and the driving force of a lot of these plays that WE continuously and relentlessly persist on making. But if it's single player of the game shoutouts, I could see Cube on the Cassante. I could see Karis on the Annie. Where's your head at, Quacks?
I mean, I feel like it has to be. I feel like it has to be Monkey, like, given player of the series. Player of the game, I would actually say Karis. Like, that Annie really, quite literally and metaphorically, turned up the heat, going from, like, the mid game to the late game. And I think that all of the attempts from AL were just, like, completely nullified. Like, they were trying to shut him down early, and it didn't work.
Yeah. I'm just impressed with how much this WE roster has blown up. I'm scanning Twitter. We got a insight from one of the LPL community members in U. She mentioned that WE coach Jinjin said that he's not the only coach on the team. Condi, who I remember from the 2017 days, which is the last time WE had not only domestic success, but also international success. Former WE jungler is also helping with the team. Arha said he had mental collapse during the regular split, but Condi kept comforting and encouraging him. How freaking cool is that to have a former WE alumni part of the most victorious and successful era that WE has had ever, and being an instrumental part to a rebirth and a potential revitalization of this org, in being able to pick up accolades once again and be recognized as one of the best teams in the LPL right now, and potentially one of the best teams going into the international stage. If they make it that far, they gotta make it happen. Yeah,
we are being so, I feel like, presumptuous on the series for top esports. Like, I feel like almost that we're acting like this obstacle does not exist. But I mean, first of all, it's the hype, you know, like the idea of that story being told and that being fulfilled. I think just as storytellers for the LPL, on top of being analysts and casters, like, that would be something we would talk about for years. And those kinds of things stick with you, especially when you cover the teams and you watch these teams and you know, get to see the players in action. Having that all come full circle is really fulfilling, I think, as casters. But then on top of that, like, I just think this is such a comeback story, right?
Yeah.
From 1-13 to potentially going to an international, that is something that doesn't happen, right? So to have that here in real time and the idea of that being a thing, you can't help but get, like, overly excited and presuming that it actually has the ability to be reality.
All right, LPL caster desk. Let's see who gets player of the game, who gets player of the series. You guys might not be able to see it, but our producer Ice is showing us on a pop-up screen for our window here. So they're discussing. I think once again, Monkey is going to get player of the series, but I wouldn't mind a player of the game going over to someone like Cube. I
vote Karis. I mean,
yeah, Karis is totally fine too.
I think, though, the fact that we are evenly distributing the player of the games for 3 different members is really telling of how much of a team effort this is. We have highlighted Monkey a lot in this series as, like, the driving force for this team, but this was a collective effort. This was a team gap, and WE were in it together. They got over the finish line as a unit, and so for one player to get, like, for player of the game to be given out to 3 different members, I think shows that collective effort, and I would have it no other way.
Yeah. Monkey can be the driving force and the madman behind the chaos, but the entire team needs to buy into the chaos itself. And I think WE are doing that every single time. The fact that you're getting single highlights from players who are pulling off their own versions of insanity, where I think Cube on that Cassante in the 1v2 retreats, goes back in with the Chemtech empowered blast cone and decides to continue baiting AL further into a fight. And it's just the constant tug of war, constantly fishing for more and baiting AL into thinking,
There it is.
oh yeah, our health bars are low, you guys should be able to win this fight. But they're constantly believing and constantly communicating to each other which targets to prioritize, what cooldowns are coming off cooldown. And obviously Anyone's Legend should be doing the same, but it just seems like the degree that WE are communicating to each other is a whole other level. Karis, as you called out, does get player of the game. Now, the real moment, and the question needs to be answered: who gets player of the series? By the way, for player of the game, it was split between mid, support, and bot lane, actually.
Yeah, I mean, about having a, I would say, silently good series, and
there it is.
Could be no one else. Monkey against the king of the jungle. Like you said, he's an entirely different beast. I loved that call, by the way. I just have to reference back to it. All of the hype around Team WE has been generated because of Monkey's craziness, because of his calculated risk assessment, because of the aggression that he shows in all of his games. This win was possible. He drove it, but the rest of the team, they helped him get there. This was a collective effort, and they've got one more hurdle to go, Mark, and I don't care that it'll be at 3 a.m. for me. I don't care if I might lose some sleep. I will be tuning in to that series.
Absolutely. I will be there. Just like the Mbappe
No
meme.
matter what.
I will be there no matter what, baby. Monkey deserved player of the match. Again, another player of the match awarded to Monkey in his second playoff series in the upper bracket. At this rate, if this momentum continues, Monkey is already a frontrunner for tournament MVP. Or playoffs
Might
MVP,
legitimately
I should say.
be. I think this actually, even if by some, I think, unfortunate turn of events, they like get 0-3'd by top esports, and then whoever they face in like a lower bracket, they get 0-3'd by them. I think what we have seen from WE will already have enough buzz and enough people excited to where Monkey will probably get votes for that award. Again, we are only, like, I would say about halfway through the tournament, so again, like us assuming that WE will make an international, or like hyping up as if it is going to happen, you know, tournament MVP, presumptuous, but very hyped, the fact that it is a possibility.
Yeah. Well, it's time to call it there. The WE praise and the WE hype will continue another day, as WE now have earned themselves a few days of rest and much needed preparation for their winners finals match, which will be on June 7. Yes. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
They will be awaiting Top Esports, and that matchup could define the first time that Top Esports has been in grand finals since 2017 spring, and would put them into MSI, their first international, also in the same year. Just to put it in perspective, and my goodness, I want to believe in this team so bad. This story is already insane.
You must already be a believer. You have to commit. I'm committed.
Oh, yeah.
We're going.
And it really makes me feel vindicated for believing in Monkey in the aftermath of Split 2 playoffs last year, and I feel bad for doubting him as he started dipping in form. Remember, there was a time early in regular season where Monkey benched himself because he didn't believe in himself anymore, that he didn't feel like he was competing at a good enough level.
Yep.
What a bounce back. What a just incredible story. And it really just feels like Neo from the Matrix, where Morpheus turns to the rest of his comrades and says, he's starting to believe. Like, this is just insane aura that is starting to gather up for this guy. As we have the updated bracket, WE now in upper finals alongside Top Esports, 1 series win away from their first international. And now Anyone's Legend find themselves in the lower bracket alongside JDG, where Anyone's Legend will be awaiting the winner of Thunder Talk and LGD. JDG awaiting the winner of EDG and BLG. So it's going to be some time before we progress on those lower bracket matches, which will continue with the first round of the lower bracket starting tomorrow and June 3rd. But thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to the broadcast. What a pleasure to witness the continued generational run of WE, and I hope for their sake that it doesn't stop anytime soon. But before we close out tonight's show, we want to give a huge shout out and thank you to our elite coffee supporters, Aaron Soup and Mung. Their pledged financial contributions help level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who strive to give you an LPL English product every single day. On behalf of myself, Rafa, Quacks, our producer Ice, and the rest of the staff and crew, thank you so much for tuning in, and see you all same time tomorrow here on LPL English.